Good morning, DJ and PK. It's 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Welcome in on a Thursday morning. The Dodgers have done it. Knocked out the Reds, bashed their way to another win, 8-4. Pitching and defense is for little people. The Dodgers will be here crushing the ball if you need them. They go on now and play the Phillies. Game 1 of the National League Division Series starts Saturday. They get a couple days off. Shehan Ohtani is going to go to the mound in Game 1. All the other series go to Game 3. Yankees fight back. Cleveland gets a game. That was a tight game. They broke it open late. And the Padres shut out the Cubs. So 3 Game 3s today for all you baseball fans. Plenty of games. Enjoy all of those. Meanwhile, we have football to talk about. BYU hosting West Virginia tomorrow night. BYU offensive coordinator Aaron Roderick meeting with the media in advance of the game. Here's A-Rod.
Did you ever know Aaron Alford, Max's dad?
Very well.
Utah?
Yeah, I knew him very well. Coached with him at Utah and Southern Utah. And it's, he lives a couple of houses up the street from my kids in Park City. So, yeah. Or his family does.
Yeah. So was that, when Max went in the portal, did you kind of chip in and say, hey, this is a kid we could use? Or?
I commented about it, but Justin Enna knew him from Utah State. I think Justin had been involved in recruiting him to Utah State. So, Jay knew the family, Kalani, we all knew the family. And but I did get a chance to watch Max play a lot in high school because he went to the same school as my kids. And we think he's a really good football player. Great kid.
What on this short week, is that it'll be stress you guys with getting a freshman ready, or do you feel like Bear's at the point now where it doesn't need as much?
Yeah, it's more just getting our team ready for the volume of defense that West Virginia presents. They do a lot of things, and they can make you look bad if you're not ready for it. So I don't know how they practice all the stuff they do. It's kind of reminds me a little bit of East Carolina. So we got to be ready for a lot of stuff in a short amount of time.
I guess the only thing you could nitpick with Bear is the slow starts. How do you get him off maybe faster, where he's on point, where he's starting games like he's finishing?
I didn't feel like he started slow last week at all. I thought he played really well right from the start of the game. I think he's just getting better every game.
What are some of the challenges of a short week? Obviously, like moving everything up and kind of getting ready in with one day less.
Yeah, it's just managing. First of all, everybody's a little sore from the last game, so you have to be smart about how much you practice. Then you have to carry a little bit less in the game plan. We won't have as much volume in this game plan as we normally do, and it's kind of finding the balance of getting healthy and fresh for the game, but also getting enough practice reps to be ready to play. And we've kind of got a system over the years of playing some Thursday and Friday games, and hopefully we'll find out Friday night if it works.
You guys have done both too. It's probably a lot nicer being at home.
Sure, yeah. I mean, they definitely have a challenge coming out here. I don't, wouldn't want to do that, but I know Rich Rod's a heck of a coach, and he'll have those guys ready to play.
With Sione out, how will that maybe affect your running back rotation, if at all?
Yeah, it does. I mean, Enoch took most of the reps in the Colorado game. We're planning to get Joe Bessa and Preston in there as well, and I don't know exactly what shape that's going to take yet, but both of those guys we feel like are ready to play, and we trust them.
Beyond the running, how impactful has LJ been just in the backfield helping a Bear with maybe calls and checks and all that?
LJ's an excellent player, man. He's a good pass protector. He's a really good receiver. Running the ball really well for us, and he and Bear have a really close relationship, and they watch film together a lot. They're both really smart guys, and they've got a good friendship.
They look a lot alike when they're running the ball too.
Bear definitely has the lower body of a running back for sure.
Were you gonna? It looked like you were going to give Preston the ball, and then there was a false start or something.
Yeah, we put him in the game. We were going to get him going, and then we had a penalty, and then. We had a plan for him to play a little more, but Colorado was doing some things differently than what we had planned for, so it didn't materialize like we had hoped. But you'll see those guys eventually, Preston and Joe Bessa, both at some point.
LJ got a little banged up, and with the short week, how is the recovery and the turnaround?
He's good. Yeah, it was nothing. He was out for a second. He just needed a second. He got right back in there. He's fine.
There's BYU offensive coordinator Aaron Roderick. We will take a break. When we come back, We are talking football with Shehan Jeyarajah. That's next. Stay with us. DJ and PK, it's 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. 4 baseball games. Starts at 11 a.m. with Detroit and Cleveland. ESPN's got the triple header today with the Red Sox and Yankees at 4 and the Reds and Dodgers at 7, with probably some grainy old video of Ken Griffey Sr. Maybe they'll run him out. And your guy Ron Say. Old school. But it's that time of year when all the sports are converging and overlapping, and it's time to talk college football right now. Shehan Jeyarajah joins us right now, CBS Sports national college football writer. Good morning. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
I didn't know. Sometimes you're having a day that feels a little more like West Virginia. Sometimes you're having a day that feels a little more like Texas Tech. Sometimes you're kind of, stuck in the middle like Kansas State.
Something like that. But like you said, it's becoming the best part of the sports calendar where everything converges. Hope you guys are taking care of my Baylor Bear Keontae George over there.
Oh yeah. We had Jazz Media Day, and we're the flagship station, so we were over at the practice facility and saw him and getting ready for the season and see what he can do. It's a big season for him, that's for sure.
He wasn't on our show, but he sat down with the show right after us, was over there. And the players tend to come in a little later. We tend to get more management and fewer players. And you can get that wherever you get your podcast. Just put it in. And he was so impressed with A.J. DeBonsa. He was selling A.J. DeBonsa, who's we'll see if he's the number 1 pick. We'll see how that works out. But he's at BYU, and he's played some pickup hoops with him, and he's very impressed. Are you impressed?
I love it.
Yeah. Are you impressed with how many teams right now in the Big 12? You sit there and think there's 4 ranked, but how many of them do you really love and you're really convinced, man, I can talk about these guys all year long, and no matter what I say, they'll back up what I say?
Well, there's one that I'm 1,000% confident. One team that I feel like at this moment you can almost pencil into Arlington, and that's Texas Tech. They've been everything that I've hoped. And the other thing, too, by the way, is that their schedule is very manageable. They have to play at Arizona State. They have a huge game against BYU that I'm hoping to attend. But, other than that, it's pretty manageable for Texas Tech. So I think that they're going to be a team that has a very legitimate chance to not just be in the playoffs, but maybe be a first-round bye as a top 4 seed. I think they're potentially that good. So that's the 1,000% lock, but a lot of other teams I like quite a bit. I think Iowa State to this point has been one of the most underrated teams in the country. I think that Arizona State, we're going to, I think, look back at that Mississippi State game as maybe not being as bad a loss after seeing the way that they competed against Tennessee. And obviously that goes down to the final play of the game on the road in Starkville. So I think they very much have the ability to bounce back. And, again, there's a lot of teams that I would view as sort of cuspers, right? I think that you look at a team like TCU, again, they lose at the very last second against a very good Arizona State team. I think that Baylor has showed some signs of being potentially encouraging. Obviously, Utah, I think, is going to be in pretty good shape, and I think that they just lost to a fantastic Texas Tech team. So, honestly, I think that there are maybe 2 or 3 that I'm they are going to be there, no doubt about it. But there's a lot of other teams who I think are right on the cusp as well.
I had as my sleeper going into the season Cincinnati, and I think they're right on track to continue to be a sleeper. And I don't know that they would be finishing first or second, but I think that especially if you go into Ohio and you beat that team, that's a great victory.
I agree. And I'll tell you what, I think that I said before the year, from a pure roster perspective, there's a pretty good case that Cincinnati is a top half roster in the league. My question for them was kind of straight up, are they going to be able to execute at a high enough level? I just didn't have a lot of trust, I guess you could say, in the coaching staff. Now, I think they've done a much better job in 2025 situationally. The fact is, I went and calculated. They had lost a year and a half worth of 1-4 games over the last 2 years. They had lost something like 6 straight, and they finally get one on the road against a really good Kansas team that I have a lot of excitement for. So the fact they've been able to handle those moments well is huge. I think that Brendan Sorsby is probably the best quarterback in the Big 12 that nobody's talking about, maybe the best in college football that nobody's talking about. And I think that they have shown that they've maybe taken that little bit of a step. And by the way, they did that last week against Kansas without their best player, Dante Corleone, in the lineup. So I think this is a team that definitely could be in that 8-9 win conversation, which would be a fantastic situation for a staff that looks like they were in a bit of trouble heading into the year.
PK went to Arizona State, so he is always watching them with a critical eye as long as they don't play head-to-head with Utah and BYU, especially home games. And one thing he constantly says here is they're winning a lot of one-score games. Are they at the point where you think these one-score victories ought to even out and the ball ought to bounce against them a few times? Or do you think Dillingham somehow has recruited guys / established a culture who thrive in those situations and that they are going to win more than their share of those one-score games?
I think that they definitely are going to be a team that wins more than their fair share. But like you said, some of this stuff is just the bounce of the ball. And you see that against Mississippi State, right? A game where obviously they are in a position to win it in the last minute. And last year, I mean, you go through, they beat Kansas State in a very close game. They beat BYU in a very close game. They beat UCF in a very close game. Like, it's just hard to do it that many times. So I think that this is a team that, if they're in close games, they're going to win 60+% of it. But again, if you start to add those numbers up, that's where you run yourself into trouble. I was hoping to a certain extent that, when they played some of these other teams, that they'd be able to pull away and make it not a one-score game. But, I will say too, their early season schedule has been tough. And by the way, they get Utah and Texas Tech and Houston and Iowa State next. So it's not necessarily going to get easier for them. So I think it's a team that is going to win more than their fair share of one-score games. But I don't know if you can guarantee that they're going to handle it to the same extent that they did last year, where, they basically sweep their one-score games after that Tech loss. So that is definitely a concern for me. Especially, again, when you have a situation where the game can swing on one play, on one takeaway, on one interception. And so I think that, for me to view them as a sort of top-tier contender, they've got to start putting away some of these games earlier.
I thought maybe Arizona can give some teams some tough games, and obviously they got smoked pretty much by Iowa State. Does that knock them down a little bit in your opinion? Because we've got, I assume BYU is going to beat West Virginia, and then they go to Arizona the following week.
Yeah, I think that for me, Arizona's goal this year is to get to a bowl game. It's to have a decent season, to be competitive against some of the better teams in the league. And they weren't on the road against Iowa State. And I think Iowa State's very good. So, I mean, look, they they host Oklahoma State this next week. I think BYU is going to be a tough game for them. But, again, if you go into the second half of the schedule with a 4-2 record and you really, have a chance to get 3 more other than that, that's plenty to me. I think that this is a team that is simply looking for improvement, simply looking for, I guess you could call it, positive reversion to the mean after what happened last year. And outside of that Iowa State game, I mean, again, I think they're going to have a chance to be competitive in a lot of these games heading forward. I think the big thing is when you do play the BYUs, the Arizona States, even the Baylors and Kansas potentially, you want to be in those games. You want to have a chance in those games. I don't think you have to win them in year 2 under Brent Brennan, but I think that you need to not be outclassed. If every game against a good team looks like it did against Iowa State, I think that's a problem. But I think of this team, again, this is the first moment that they've been presented with a challenge like Iowa State. I don't think they handled it well, but I don't think that necessarily means that they're completely down for the count. I think that this is still a very good team, and Noah Fafita is finally kind of back to looking like the quarterback that we thought he was in 2023.
All right, you've talked, there's a lot of 3-1 teams in this league. You've talked about Cincinnati, and you've talked a little bit about TCU and Arizona. UCF is 3-1. Are they going to be good enough to beat some of the top teams in the league and open the door for BYU and Utah? You need help late in the year. You need somebody to get knocked off. Is UCF a team that can do that, or are they paper tiger on September schedule and they're not even going to be bowl eligible?
Yeah, I think that they're probably a paper tiger. I mean, Kansas State really kind of took it to them in the second half of that game, and Kansas State hasn't been great this year. You look at the wins that they've got. It was a 1-score win against Jacksonville State. It was that decimation of North Carolina, who looks like one of the worst teams in the country, and it was an FCS win. So I don't necessarily know that they're going to be able to to beat and compete with some of the better teams in the league. Now, I think that they maybe, especially with Taven Jackson at quarterback, are a little bit more of a chaos team than they could have been. I mean, again, especially you look at that first game. I mean, they looked terrible against Jacksonville State. Maybe should have lost that game, frankly. But I just don't know if they have the depth of talent right now, especially on offense, to be able to hang in that late stretch. I mean, in the last few weeks of the year, they get both Texas Tech and BYU. I don't know if they can hang in those games, especially with both those games being on the road. And so, I don't necessarily know that this is a team that's going to be much more than competing for trying to get out of the bottom three of the Big 12.
How much do you think that the national playoff that they created and expanded has maybe dented, I don't want to go ruined, but dented the regular season? And what I'm going to use this as an example, that you got the situation with Penn State and Oregon. Okay, it's a big game, overtime, blah, blah, blah. Franklin can't win the big game, but he's got two more games against ranked teams, right? He's got Ohio State and Indiana. My guess is he'll beat Ohio State or lose to Ohio State, maybe beat Indiana. They got two losses, so that puts them in the playoff just like last year. I mean, Ohio State loses to, and you're supposed to, if you lose early in the season. Ohio State loses the last game to Michigan and finishes fourth, still gets in, and we know what happens. So I didn't understand why it was so dramatic, because I think it's, to an extent, these bigger conferences has become like the NCAA tournament in basketball. Who really cares if you finish first, second, or third in your conference as long as you get in the tournament and are playing in the Elite Eight?
So there are two ways I want to address this question. The first is, I think that one thing that it has done is, yes, it puts a little bit less weight on the biggest of the big games, right? Ohio State versus Michigan doesn't mean as much as it used to. Texas, Oklahoma doesn't mean as much. But I think that what we are seeing is that there are 150 other games that wouldn't have meant as much that suddenly mean a whole lot. I think about, for example, in week one, we have a South Florida versus Boise State game. That game was a playoff game in a lot of ways. Boise State is kind of out because of that game, whereas 2 years ago, where we're talking about a 14 playoff, that's not a game that's really on national radars the same way. And there are many, many examples of it. I think even, for example, if you talk about, with auto bids, like every single game that impacts the Big 12 title race is suddenly a nationally relevant game in a way that was not the case just a couple of years ago. So I think that that's one piece of it, is that, maybe it impacts the top six and the importance of their game. But I think with teams 7 through 45, it makes every one of their games substantially more important and more watchable and builds more narrative around those games. And actually, even looking back to 2024, I mean, I can't tell you how many stories I was able to get greenlit on Group of 5 teams, because suddenly their games were incredibly important to the national picture. So that's one piece of it. The other thing, too, though, is that, I'll tell you what, I get to sit here and see the traffic and analytics and reception and all this stuff after the game. There has been very little drop-off in terms of interest in these games. And I mean that also from the perspective of, look, obviously James Franklin and Penn State have the ability to play their way back into that situation. But, people are ready to jump on Franklin. And, these games are huge narrative setters for these teams, even if, again, they have the opportunity to bounce back to them. I mean, think about, again, a couple of years ago, right? We'd be going through the last 9 games of the season, essentially, ignoring what might be the most talented roster in the country at Penn State. Whereas now this is it turns up the temperature, it turns up the interest in some ways of you better do this. You better go on the road and beat Ohio State, who's number 1 in the country. You better handle Indiana, which again is playing one of the best teams in the country right now. So I think that while again, there was a time when seasons were just over and you eliminated teams when these sort of things happen. I think that this actually drives interest in conversation in a lot of ways, because here's reality too, right, is that if Penn State can't beat one of those two teams, then they're out. And then all of a sudden you're having legit fire James Franklin conversations. You're having real, this is one of the great failures of the playoff era conversation. And again, I think that the one thing, too, that is comparable with the NCAA tournament is that different teams are playing for different things, right? Kentucky's not just playing to make the NCAA tournament. They're playing for a trip to the Final Four. If they don't do that, then that's considered a disappointing season. Other teams are just trying to make it into the field. That's going to be the case with a Boise State last year, with an SMU last year. And so I think that very much does adjust the way that we look at it, where, again, for a team like Penn State, with what they invested into their team, being the 11th seed in the college football playoff is not really considered any sort of real success because they're meant to be competing for something more.
To your point, I suddenly find several Notre Dame games interesting because with losses to Miami and A&M, they're right on the cusp. If they win 10 in a row and Miami and Texas A&M are both in, there's an argument that, they've gotten a lot better, and they lost to two really good teams that are in. Plus, let's face it, they're Notre Dame, so they'll probably get the benefit of the doubt. But along the way, they got to play Boise State. They got to play USC. Navy's off to a good start. Could Navy upset them? Any one of these guys, I feel like I have to at least check the Notre Dame score to see if they're in a game they might lose or if, like Arkansas, they're running away and hiding.
Yeah, it's 10 straight playoff games, essentially, for Notre Dame at this point. Because here's the other thing, too, right, is like you said, they're probably not going to be not talked about, right? They're Notre Dame. Even in a previous year, we're probably going to find some way to talk about them. But the way that it changes is that it shifts the onus in so many ways onto the teams that they're playing. It's a big opportunity for Boise. Like if Boise State goes out and beats Notre Dame, all of a sudden we're forgiving them a little bit for what happened against South Florida, right? So there's so many more opportunities for different teams to play their way into attention. And that's the thing that I have loved the most through 1 year of the college football playoff, going to 12 teams, is that, again, there are just so many more teams involved in different ways. And again, I can say as somebody who can see the analytics on this stuff, it drives interest in moving away from just the top 5 or so brands in college football.
What's your reaction to the Oklahoma State situation?
Oh, man, it is. I wasn't optimistic about that group coming into the year, but it has been so much worse than obviously I expected. I mean, this is a team that I think will contend to be the worst team in the power conferences. I think it's a team that will contend to be one of the worst teams in the country. I will say, you know what, like Doug Meacham, their interim coach, has come in and really seemed to loosen things up. I obviously kept a close eye on that Baylor-Oklahoma State game last week, and Dave Aranda said after the game, like, you know what, they came out in a bunch of wonky stuff that they haven't done all year long because they were just throwing stuff out there, and they managed to move the ball and try some things and do some things a little bit because Doug Meacham was like, screw it, why not? So this is, from a roster perspective, a brutal situation. I think that one thing that's very underrated about how difficult this is that they have 65 new players this year. So it's not like a situation, I mean, even let's make the comparison of like in Arkansas where, you know, you fire the coach and then maybe these guys who have played together and grown up together, like they get a chance to try to figure something out and bounce back. Like this isn't one of those situations. All of these guys came here essentially, you know, not in a negative way, but as mercenaries. And so now a lot of them are going to have to decide, like, do I sit out and redshirt so I can transfer again next year and get a real opportunity to play? Like I don't know how you handle that as a program and as a staff. And again, it's just very difficult to see where exactly even a single win could come from this year.
Shehan, we appreciate it as always. Thanks for joining us, and we will talk to you again next week.
Thank you so much for having me.
There's Shehan Jeyarajah joining us. When we come back, Riley Jensen is talking football with us. Stay with us right here on The Zone. DJ and PK, time to welcome in Riley Jensen. Riley, good morning.
What's up, my dudes?
Our local teams. There's a lot of winning going on. Everybody's got a winning record. Of course, schedules are about to get tougher. Conference games are coming. Are you a little more optimistic about somebody than somebody else? You got anybody you look at right now and you're thinking, oh, this is going to be good? Or you're a little worried for everybody right now.
Well, I mean, the schedules are tough. If you're talking about my optimism, I'm feeling most optimistic for Utah State. A little bit worried about the injury at quarterback, but I thought Conover came in and played well against Vanderbilt. And those two losses to Vanderbilt and to Texas A&M, two SEC teams, where they scored points. They're moving the ball now. Defensively, you're like, ooh, there's some things there, but I don't worry as much about Utah State and Bronco Mendenhall on defense as I do usually offensively. Like, what are they going to do offensively? And I think Coach McGivern's doing a great job up there, and I feel very optimistic about. And I guess this goes more back to like what expectations were before the season compared to now. Not is BYU or Utah going to be good. I think they're going to be really good. I think the BYU Utah game is going to be gigantic. I think, obviously, with West Virginia coming in, I think BYU starts the season off 5-0. And there's some really good things going on for all the teams right now. I'm cautiously optimistic for all three.
I agree with you as far as preseason expectations, but those expectations can be reset during the course of the season. And once they are reset, and you want them to be reset if they're lower, because that means if they're reset, hopefully it's higher, not even worse. And I'm trying to be the positive. Right. So for all three, I think I've reset expectations for Utah State and BYU. I'm still keeping the same expectations for Utah because the Texas Tech thing is in my mind. And not just that they lost, but they really got dominated to an extent. According to their own coach, he said he never thought in a million years he'd see that at the line of scrimmage. Now, maybe that's just a one-game deal, and the money that Texas Tech paid allowed them to be that good up front, and so the rest of the league Utah can handle. But I had high expectations for them to begin. So in my mind, I reset the expectations for BYU and Utah State to thinking, and if I had them at 8, then I'm going to bump them up a game or two. If I had them at 6, I'm going to bump them up a game or two. You think that's fair?
Yeah, I think that's totally fair. When you say you reset your expectation for Utah, what's? I
haven't. I've kept them the same. That's what I'm saying.
The same, even with the Texas Tech loss.
I had them, I believe. I'd have to go back and check. 9-3, 8-4. So I had them.
Okay.
I
think you had them at 9-3 because I said that at our preseason roundtable. Yeah. I said 9-3, and I'm not going higher than that because I don't know enough about all these other teams, and maybe they can get to 10-2 or 11-1, but they ought to get to 9-3.
Right. So I'm keeping that. Yeah, you're right. I did. You're right. I remember now. Yeah. Okay. So I'm keeping them, but I've boosted it up for the Aggies and the Cougars.
Right, but you guys were much more realistic about Utah than others to start with, because I think I had them at like 10-2, and so that becomes so yes, I've reset my expectation more to where you guys are, like 9-3, 8-4. So
yeah, I can't reset it. I can't reset it to 8-4 even now, even with what I saw. I mean, I always thought they were going to lose a game, and just on paper, Texas Tech screams, well, we spent all this money, we ought to be the toughest opponent, right? And you know the Utah-BYU game is crazy. I don't know what's going to happen. I just figured it'll be one score, and it'll be decided in the last 2 minutes, right? So, but not knowing the quality of these other teams, but knowing their coach sat up there multiple times, told him this is the best offensive line he's ever had. And this is a coach who wants to run the ball. This ought to be a pretty good team. 9-3. And maybe better, but I'm not going out on that limb sitting there in August. Or even now, some of these Big 12 teams are still a little bit of a mystery to us here.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I agree. The Big 12, I remember when Utah went to the Pac-12, it was like there was always like two head scratchers, like what happened in that game and what happened in that game, and and then just for for Utah, there'd be two head scratchers. Like, how did they lose that? I did not see them losing that game. And then they'd win a game they weren't supposed to win. And I feel like that's a little bit like what the Big 12 is like now. I feel like that there's, we thought Kansas State was going to be really good, and we thought TCU was going to be decent, and then Arizona State, and you look around the league and you're like, I don't know. And then now that Arizona State lost to Mississippi State doesn't look that bad, right? It looks like that was a really, really tough loss. And so it's a really interesting landscape with the Big 12. And we're talking about a lot of different things here. Utah and BYU always play tough defense. That's always going to keep them in games. And as their quarterbacks continue to improve, that's going to improve their offense. I mean, Bear Bachmeier was significantly better and really good under pressure at Colorado. And I've played at Colorado. You get caught in between that little Colorado sign and the end zone, it's really loud. And it's really hard. And it's not a huge stadium, but it gets really, really loud. And it's really obnoxious to play at Colorado. And I didn't see any flinch out of him. I didn't see any problem out of him. I saw a lot of confidence throws. I saw throws over the middle. I saw runs that were tough. This is a kid that's growing up right before our eyes, and I think if you're BYU, you got to be a little bit excited about what he's doing.
So you place him ahead of schedule as far as his progression?
I do. For a freshman quarterback, I think he's ahead. I mean, the best thing that he's doing is he's taking care of the football.
Yep.
He's not throwing the ball into places where he's going to get picked off. I think he has 6 touchdowns on the year, no interceptions.
Yeah.
It's not setting the world on fire as far as like numbers of touchdowns, but it's certainly not putting yourself in a bad situation, right?
No doubt.
Right, but the flip side of that is what they're doing is so good, is it sustainable? And maybe the answer to that is yes. Maybe this is just something this team has a knack for. They have a lot of takeaways. They have 1 turnover. They're +6. That makes them one of the top 10 teams in the country in turnover margin. And we got a whole line of coaches, starting with the local coaches here, but going all the way across the country saying what an important stat this is, right? Kyle says it's the most important stat after the final score. They're +6 in turnovers. There are 10 teams in the country can say that right now. Are they going to keep performing at that level? Because if they do, I think they're going to have a really exciting season. But, man, you've been in games. I mean, everything's going great, and then there's a fumble and a tipped interception, and everything feels different, and you're down two takeaways, and everything is on its head in a heartbeat. So sitting here predicting what's going to happen, so some of the predictions are right. On paper, months ago, we could say, man, there's a 4-game stretch that just looks so difficult for BYU coming up in the second half of the season. And the only thing that's wrong about it now, and PK's been pointing this out, is, well, Cincinnati's 3-1. If they keep playing like this, well, then it's a 5-game stretch. So I'm just wondering, when the competition gets better, are they going to still be this awesome in turnover margin? Because if they are, then good things are going to happen.
The answer is no. They're not going to be this awesome at it, but are they going to? Or do they win? So I don't know where I got this from, and I've seen so many social media videos over the last 5 years. I can't even remember which coach said it, but one of the things that I look for in every game is who wins the explosive battle, which means how many 20-yard gains or more do you get, and then who wins the turnover battle. And if you win both of those battles, you're like 99% on wins. And right now, BYU's winning those battles. Now, are they gonna do it where they don't turn the ball over and they're +6 for the year, and they just go throughout the year and they're like +9 for the year? I don't think so. But you can still win games and turn the ball over. I mean, every single quarterback in the NFL has turned the ball over so far, except for Jalen Hurts this year. And so, there's teams winning the game, and you turn the ball over. So, no, I don't think it's going to be as good as it has been. And you're going to have to ask Bear to do more and more as the season goes on. But I think it's right on target for a young man to be confident. He's making a lot of confident throws, and you're going to be able to ask him to do more the more confident he gets. And if that translates into explosives or big post plays over the top or a big, climb route on a 3rd down, well, that can win games for you. So, look, this isn't a guy – right now he's a game manager, but this isn't a quarterback that's going to be a game manager in the future. This is going to be a guy that you can hang your hat on to win games for you. So whether that happens towards the end of this year or next year, I don't know, but I feel like it's trending towards he could do that towards the end of this year. And I I thought the Colorado game was as much pressure as you could put on a young quarterback to play well, and I thought he played well and he made big throws.
Yeah, they already know, having had conversations, that they full well know the meat of the schedule, which is coming up. It's basically mid-October to mid-November. They know that he's going to have to do more, and they are preparing and prepping him to do more. The thing that they love is the decision-making that he has been making is obviously been incredible, which is one of the reasons why he has 0 interceptions, 0 fumbles. And you can see when he runs, he's got the peripheral vision, and if as people are closing, you automatically go and see him to put 2 hands on the ball, and he covers it up, and he puts it right in his gut. So he's got that. They had this situation, they reviewed the film in Colorado, and they said every play he checked into or out of was the right play except for one, and that was up against the play clock there. And so they are confident that he can handle more because they know, and he knows, and everybody knows, that he's going to have to do more. And they may have a turnover or two, but you're going to sacrifice that at the benefit being instead of 160 yards, he throws for 250 yards and 3 scores. And there'll be a trade-off. And then also, it's a turnover battle that you're looking to win. Dillingham talks about, since he got the team going at Arizona State, they are 13-0 when they win the turnover battle. And so it's a football team, obviously. So if he commits or they commit 2 turnovers, well, then go ahead and get 4 on the other end. And as long as you win that turnover battle and you cash in on most of them, you're going to be in a good spot. And that's what they're looking for as they get into the meat of the schedule. Whether he can do it and handle it against these particular defenses each week remains to be seen, but that's the plan going forward.
Well, and I agree 100% with all of those things. And I think the other thing that you need to throw in is, and I've seen Jay Hill coach in almost every game at Weber State when he was there, and this is what's so impressive about him. I don't know that there's a better coach in the country. Now, there might be some other that are just as good, right? I know that there's not a better coach in the country at making halftime adjustments. I mean, teams just don't. I've seen it at Weber State 100 times. I even was sideline reporting for one of the TV games, and I just couldn't believe how relaxed he was at halftime because the offense for the other team had scored a bunch, way more than a Jay Hill defense would expect, right? And he was just in a good mood, and I said, "What kind of adjustments do you make?" And he goes, "Oh, we have some adjustments, and we're going to be just fine. Watch." And he came out and he shut them down in the second half, and Weber State won the game. Well, you fast forward to the Colorado game. Colorado scores 2 quick touchdowns, and then the rest of the game was tough sledding for Colorado. It was so the adjustments were made, and that defense was lights out again. They came up with a couple of shocking drives that tested their mettle, but nobody makes better halftime adjustments than Jay Hill, and that's got to give you confidence going into those big games. As soon as Jay Hill sees what's going on, he knows how to exploit offenses and how to make them uncomfortable. And I think that's another thing. And besides the fact that they're getting turnovers and playing great defense as it is, he also is just so good at adjustments.
I get what you're saying about the explosive plays. I've heard that for a long time. A lot of times what happens is when you aren't getting those explosive plays, you're getting a lot of 4-yard gains. And that means, all right, now you need a 15-yard or a 15-play drive or something to go the length of the field. What I find intriguing about this Ute offense, and it may be the level of competition and maybe it's early and this sorts itself out, is they don't seem to produce a lot of the 20-plus yard explosive plays, but they seem to generate a lot of 7 to 15-yard plays. And I don't have any numbers on what a normal is and what a big number is of those plays, but it just seems like watching a game, I'm seeing way more 11-yard gains, which obviously keeps you out of bad down and distance, and the team feels like it has momentum. Is that good enough, or you think they got to find a way to do what they did against West Virginia? Because we saw more big plays in that game, but that just might be West Virginia being terrible.
I think it's West Virginia. I think what makes me nervous about the University of Utah, and I know that we're all just a little bit like beat over the head a little bit because of the Texas Tech game, but literally the Texas Tech safeties were playing at 10 yards. Like they had no respect for the deep ball. They had no respect for anything that was going on. It made it hard to run the ball, and when they weren't able to get some throws over the top, it just really made it hard on this offense. I think that they have to figure out how to get some explosives, whether that's through the run game that everybody talks about and how good this offensive line is, or they've got to figure out ways to get more 20-yard plays. And I don't know what the equivalent comparison is, but forever it used to be that NBA basketball teams made 15 to 18 foot jump shots, right? And those were really good shots for teams. And Matt Harpring would come bending around and he'd hit a shot from the elbow and everybody go, God, that's just great offense. That's pretty much gone in the NBA now. It's like 3-pointers and layups, I mean, there's a few guys that are still hitting those mid-range shots and they're taking them in certain points. But I wonder if there's some sort of equivalent to football where, these 9-yard gains are good, but you got to be able to take the top off. You got to be able to expand that defense and get the spacing that you need so that you can run the football on third down, so that you can do some of the things that you need to do to keep the chains moving. Because I'll tell you, the scariest thing for me, the hardest thing for me as an offensive coordinator is 3rd and 4. 3rd and 4 is just hard, right? And so let's say you get a nice 6-7 yard play, and then on 2nd down you go -1. You're in 3rd and 4. Do you run the ball? Do you throw the ball? What kind of defense are they going to have? What kind of run pass option can you give your quarterback to get it, or are you just going to pound the rock? I mean, those are hard plays, and the teams that win on 3rd and 4 are the teams that win a lot of games. And right now, 3rd and 4 seems to be a hard play for the University of Utah to me.
What do you think is harder, 3rd and 4 or 4th and 2?
Well, I think 3rd and 4 is harder because you've got to move the chains. Now, 4th and 2 has a lot of pressure on it because usually if you're going for it on 4th and 2, it's because there's high stakes.
Yeah.
But I think 4th and 2 is more manageable than 3rd and 4. But if you can look in the Big 12, there's so many good quarterbacks and so many good offenses. 3rd and 4 is important because it keeps the other offense off the field, and it's the same in every league. If you can keep the other guy's star player off the field, he can't score touchdowns, right? And those drives, some of those long drives that you see are really backbreakers to some teams, not just because the defense gets deflated because they can't stop the 4 yards in a cloud of dust, but because the offense can't get into any sort of a rhythm on the other side, and they're trying to get their offensive guys going.
Yeah.
And once they get going, that's a big deal.
And let me tell you what really bugs the crap out of me, Riley Jensen.
Uh-oh.
You constantly hear this. This is 4-down territory. No, it's not. It's 4-down situation. Because if you're down by 4 and there's a minute and a half to go and you're on your own 10-yard line, you're going to go for it. It has nothing to do with the territory. It's the situation. And they always say 4-down territory. And if you're on the 50 or you're on the other team's 10, it's not territory. It's the situation, Riley Jensen.
Oh, okay.
It is.
I can feel what you're saying. So you're saying that the time and the score dictated more than the place on the field.
Implies real estate. Real estate has nothing to do with it. It's not territory. It is situation.
I think the only territory is between the 35 and the 40 going in because you don't want to punt from there. And you don't trust your kicker from 54 yards or whatever.
But that's situation. That's not territory.
It's still the territory. When you're between the 35 and the 40.
But it's secondary. It's the situation that leads to it.
Yep.
Yep.
Riley, don't get sucked into the vortex. I would advise you to look away.
No, it's the
Look away,
truth.
Riley.
It is 4-down situation.
Look,
The two things bug me in football. LSU having the marker on the field every 5 yards. I hate it.
There's numbers everywhere.
Irregardless, I could care less.
And then,
Irregardless,
and then
nice.
what also else bugs me, Riley, you see people jogging down the street, and then they come to a stoplight, and then they do it like they're running in place and wait for the light to turn. No, just stop. Or run down the street and run back. Don't just move your feet just a little, about 1/10 of the speed. Stand there and wait for the light to change, or do push-ups or something. And you know what, Riley? Now that we're on the subject, my wife told me the other day she was down at the Southtown Costco, and she saw an older guy pull up, and it's usually, you have to wait a car or two. There's 3 pumps, but you have to wait. She saw somebody pull up, an older guy, get out, put the gas pump into the tank, and while it was filling up, no joke, he did jumping jacks.
I'm going to be that guy going forward. That never occurred to me.
Yes.
Why are you so angry? Why does this make you so mad?
Why is the sky blue? Why is grass green?
Was the sky blue yesterday?
Why is water wet, Riley?
I mean,
Why do you?
It was above the clouds.
Where you live, I got it, but not where the rest of us live.
And after 4 o'clock, it cleared up.
It was too late for men's league.
It was. Yeah, it was pouring then. You could play through that.
Angry. That's why I get it. Now I know why.
No, it's just little things, man. Don't jog. Wait for the light to change. Don't tell me it's 4-down territory as if one statement applies across the board. It's 4-down situations.
It is mostly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, Riley, you better go. You better go before all this.
Stop jogging, waiting for the light to change. Just stand there.
I'm starting to feel negative. I gotta go.
Okay. Thanks, Riley.
All right.
There's Riley Jensen. When we come back, what is trending? The headlines are next.
It's time to get your morning started with the news you need to know. News update. This is what's trending with DJ and PK. Hashtag NFL.
I don't think I foresaw it. Listen, I think I said it on Sunday. Anytime you're in this league, I mean, everybody's always getting evaluated, and the job of a quarterback is to help your team win football games. So I don't know if I foresaw it coming. But listen, me and Kevin can have a good conversation. It wasn't like it was anything super long or drawn out like that, but got to the point and had a good conversation with him about it, and it is what it is.
Joe Flacco on being benched by Cleveland. They got 2 rookies. They're going nowhere. Find out what you got in one of the rookies, PK. So they're going to go ahead and start Dylan Gabriel. Start to find out what they have.
Yeah, what they have is a great draft pick for Dante Moore.
A chance to get another quarterback. We're going to have every young quarterback.
Well, have a good one. They don't need everyone. You just need a good one.
Browns are 1-3, playing the Vikings. 7:30, early game from England. Thursday night football, Niners and Rams. Niners will not have Brock Purdy. Purdy is out. Receivers Ricky Pearsall and Juwan Jennings out. That offense is going to be a little short-handed tonight. Ooh, you want to go early with a lock of the week, anybody? Yak's shaking his head now. He's got somebody else. You already got your game picked out, Yak. Are you even tempted by the Rams and Niners?
Mildly.
Yeah. You, PK, you tempted?
I haven't thought about it.
Yeah. Not the only shorthanded team out there. The Ravens remain tight-lipped about the status of injured quarterback Lamar Jackson. Left in the third quarter of the game with the Chiefs last week with a hamstring injury. Will he be ready to go this week, or is he going to have to miss a game? The Ravens are off to a 1-3 start, and they're playing the Houston Texans this week.
Yeah, well, in the NFL, you can't be. Don't you have to have an injury report?
Yes. But you can put him down as doubtful or probable or whatever, and so will he go or not? And I don't know the timing of that injury report. Have they already put one out, Yak? You're into this kind of thing.
They're more about practice availability during the week. So he didn't practice yesterday, but his status for the game is still TBD.
Jackson Dart, Giants quarterback, said there's always a chip on your shoulder when a team snubs a player like the Saints reportedly did when they bypassed taking Dart with the 9th pick in the draft. New York went on to trade back in the first round and take Dart. Now the Giants play the Saints. So he's got a chance to have a chip on his shoulder and take it out on them. 1-3 Giants, the 0-4 Saints. There's a storyline for a low-end game.
Didn't he go like 29th? 26th? Nowhere there?
Yeah, it was something like that. But honestly, I don't have the number at the
Why
tip of my
pick the
finger.
Saints? I mean,
because
they're
they're
26. That would mean you 25 teams.
They're playing them this week.
Okay, and then what about next week and the week after?
Well, the next week would be the Eagles, so I don't think they passed on him unless they had a pick earlier. I mean, they're obviously their own pick. He went 22. Wow. He was 22.
You know that they play the Eagles. Man, you are a scheduled guy. I love it.
You're welcome. DJ PK.
Thank you. I didn't say thank you.
Too late. You're welcomed anyway.
Hashtag college football.
Ole Miss coach Lane Kiffin said, quote, dynasties are over, close quote. In the SEC after the league added Texas and Oklahoma and recently announced they'll add a 9th conference game beginning next year. It feels like the transfer portal and NIL have changed things. He says, when I was at Alabama, it'd be like, go watch the outside linebackers. And there's 6 of them over there that are first-round picks. That's not going to happen anymore because if they don't play, they're going to leave. They can't keep them all anymore. Lane Kiffin has spoken. He's not the only one who's announced that sentiment, but that is someone who was on the inside of one of the powerhouse programs when they were at the very top of the sport. I guess that gives it a little more oomph, but he's echoing what other people said about the talent spreading out in this era.
I think that's true. It's been said many times over. It was predicted before the immediate transfer happened and the NIL happened, and it's come to pass. But I will say, in his day at Alabama, if there were 6 linebackers, there was no federal, local, or state law that guaranteed that those players had to stay at Alabama. They could always leave. They just had to sit out.
Yes. But there are more reasons to leave now, and it is easier to get out now. So.
Well, the more reasons is that it's money.
Yep.
And so, but you can also argue, too, though, that the flip side of this is, hey, go to the big school and give it a shot, and then if you're not playing, then you leave. Mm-hmm. So you can argue that, too. So I don't know that the dynasties are over. I mean, the way so the thing about college football is it is not a dynasty, it's dynasties.
Yes.
And so that's where I would disagree with him. Because Ohio State is always going to be at the top.
How spread out is it going to be? How many teams are going to have a chance to win the title? And whereas before, Alabama could go out and win 4 and 5 years, I think that's going to be pretty hard, but it's only spread out to where, and even winning an SEC, just winning the SEC every year. I mean, even leave out the national title. Can you win your conference every year? And you look at how many conference titles Alabama won with Saban. And Georgia went right to the top, but they're not having that kind of run, it doesn't look like. So even at the conference title level, can it get passed around? And will it get passed around in the Big Ten? Will Michigan be back? Will Penn State finally get one? And will Oregon get one? I mean, is Ohio?
Yeah, but
and
is
maybe
that really
Ryan Day
passed
goes
around?
On the Nick Saban
it's passed
run.
around among the same teams.
Among 5 teams instead of 2 or 3, or 7 teams instead of 3 or 5
yeah,
instead
Oregon,
of 2.
because they weren't in there. So this is their second year in the conference. So, yeah, add them to the mix. Whoop-de-doo. If you want to add more teams to the mix in the Big Ten, extend invitations to Georgia and Alabama, and you'll have more teams in the mix. That's all they're doing.
But we had a stretch where Oklahoma won 6 in a row in the Big 12, and Alabama won
That's not the Big 12.
7
Big
out of
deal.
9, and the Big 10 was Ohio State, I don't know, was it 6 out of 7 years? I have to go back and look it up.
Okay, you're talking about the final team. I'm not talking about the final team. I'm talking about the same teams being in the mix.
Yes, there's still going to be a play. The best players are still going to be in, 8, 10 teams?
Well, that doesn't really change anything.
But nobody's going to win 4 out of 5.
Oh, what's the difference? If your team doesn't have a chance, then who cares if it's 4 out of 5 or 1 out of 5, and it's the same 2 or 3 teams 5 out of 5?
Iowa State lost starting quarterbacks Jontez Williams and Jeremiah Cooper to season-ending injuries, dealing a blow to one of the Big 12 favorites. Both have ACL injuries that require surgery. Immediately, we can start watching Iowa State's pass defense and see how much of an impact that's going to have. The Big Ten's in discussions about a private capital deal that would infuse at least $2 billion into the league and its schools. The discussions include a 10-year extension of the league's grant of rights until 2046. There are 3 different private capital entities being considered by the Big Ten to accept the money from.
Yeah, I mean, that's great, but if it's such a big deal and so great, then the SEC will get one, the Big 12 will get one, and away you go.
Seems like it's more about the structure, that instead of selling them a portion of the school athletic department and all that, they're going to create a new business to raise new money, and they'll own a portion of that, but they won't have control over the actual athletic department. It sounds like from the way they're talking about structuring it. We'll see if they actually do it and what it looks like when they do.
The Big Ten gets more money. Wow. Breaking news.
Yep.
Film at 11.
And to the earlier point, let's wait and see if it's spread evenly. I doubt it. Or if that new money is split up and the wealthier teams get more money and the gap grows bigger. That's more what I expect.
Well, the gap, you can give Rutgers and Purdue all the money you want. It's not going to make a difference.
Okay, well, money made a difference, though, to Indiana. So it's apparently making a difference to Vanderbilt. I mean, it's possible it could make a difference.
Did it make a difference, or was it the coaching? You always told me you had to get the right people in place. Yesterday you were talking about the Mets and how they didn't have the right people in place, so the money didn't matter. Now you change your tune and say the money is the reason why Indiana is on top.
I don't. Well, first off, they're not on top. They're 4th. But when you're Indiana and you were 14th, and when you were 14th, 4th is a whole lot better. And I think the only way you get there is get a bunch more money and spend it wisely on the right people. And if you don't do both
Ohio
of those
State
things,
was 4th last year, so I don't know about that one.
They're not in the playoff.
And Indiana was in the playoff, and Indiana finished ahead of Ohio State last year.
Okay, so now they're 3rd. Great. But I still think it's the same thing. You've got to have the money and invest it. And you've got to spend it on the right people. If you don't get the money, you're not getting to the playoff. And if you spend it on the wrong people, you're not getting to the playoff. Yeah, but if
you get the money and I get the money and I am Ohio State, okay, you be the one to bet against Ohio State. Good luck with that.
I didn't say I was betting against Ohio State. But thanks for assigning me that.
I did, because I said I'm going to give the same amount of money to Purdue and I'm going to give the same amount of money to Ohio State. Who's going to win?
Probably Ohio State.
But
then I go betting on brands again, and then you criticize me for that. So, either way, you got me.
I know, because when you get out of bed, I've already anointed you a loser for the rest of your life. We've been over that a million times. That's what you think. I'm not going to change that.
DJ and PK.
#NBA.
NBA veteran Al Horford said his decision to leave the Celtics after years with the franchise, his decision to sign with the Warriors, was the next best option in his mind to continue his career. Are we in dog bites man territory right there?
Well, the Celtics didn't want him, and the Warriors did.
Yeah. Mavericks center Daniel Gafford sprained ankle in the first training camp practice. He's going to be out 2 to 3 weeks. May not be available when the Mavs open the season October 22nd. He missed the last 2 months of last season due to a grade 3 MCL sprain.
Well, the good thing is that he won't be alone. He'll be able to sit there and talk with Anthony Davis in street clothes.
There you go. Houston Rockets coach Ime Udoka said that the Dorian Finney-Smith likely will not be available in the early going of the season. He's rehabbing from off-season ankle surgery. 4 years, $53 million. No Dorian Finney-Smith.
Not Dorian Finney-Smith. What will they do?
DJ and PK.
#Major League Baseball.
Naylor, a swing and a high drive, deep right. Back goes Perez. Track, wall, gone! There will be a Game 3 tomorrow. Bo Naylor, a towering 3-run home run to right. Cleveland, a 5 run 8th.
First pitch swinging in the air to deep left field. Happ is feeling for the wall. He's looking up. It's going to go. Waveland Avenue for Manny Machado. A 2-run homer in the 5th inning. And the Padres do add on. It's 3-0.
3-2 pitch. Jazz runs. Pitch swing on. Line drive right field. Fair ball. Here comes Jazz. Coming around third. Rojas waving him. Jazz coming down the line. Here's the throw to the plate. He slides. He is there. He's in there. The Yankees have the lead. It's 4-3 New York.
Count still full. The next pitch from Santillan will be the 9th to Mookie. Line. Fair ball down the left field line. Have a night, Mookie Betts. Rojas going to trot in and score. Ohtani held up at third. Mookie Betts 4 for 5 with 3 doubles.
It's one MVP one night. It's another MVP another night. The Dodgers take 2 from the Reds. They slug their way through the wild card series 10-5 and 8-4. They are on to the division series Saturday. They'll face the Phillies. They slug their way through it, PK. The bullpen isn't great. Cincinnati scored 2 more runs in the 8th inning, just as they had an 8th inning the night before. But in this series, the bats were plenty enough to carry them through.
Yeah, well, the tying run was on base in that 8th inning that you speak of. They had the bases loaded, and they're down by 4.
Yep. As opposed to the night before when they loaded the bases and were down by 5. But the Dodgers slugged their way through, but the red flag is there, right?
It's always been there. It's been there all season.
Cleveland breaks it open late, beats Detroit 6-1, so they got a game 3 in that series. You heard the Yankees scoring in the 8th inning to beat the Red Sox 4-3, force a game 3 there. And the Padres shut out the Cubbies 3-0 to force a game 3 there. So 1 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 6 o'clock, you got 3 games today. You're missing the early game, PK. No baseball from 11 to 1. But other than that, you're covered.
Yeah, good time of year.
Giants president of baseball operations, Buster Posey, said the franchise is not going to consider Bruce Bochy as a candidate to be their new manager, but he did say there could be a position with the team for Bochy should he want to rejoin the franchise he led to 3 World Series titles. So maybe not the day-to-day grind in the dugout, but you get his baseball brain into the organization in some way, somehow. DJ and PK.
#golf.
PGA Tours in Jackson, Mississippi for the Sanderson Farms Championship. Patrick Fishburne and Zach Blair in the field this week as the locals are looking to capitalize on opportunities to bolster their 2026 status. Can you get the full tour card? And if not, can you get as many tournaments as possible? Work your way up. It won't be long before they're here, PK. Get our second tour stop.
Yeah, the end of the month.
DJ and PK.
#NHL.
Well, put down the hammers and the saws and get the crane out of the middle of the arena. There's going to be sports at the Delta Center. Utah Mammoth play their first preseason game at the Delta Center tonight when they take on the Kings. Puck drop set for 7 p.m. Coverage on the KSL Sports Zone begins at 6. And as we told you, it happened in the show yesterday, late in the show yesterday, Connor Ingram to the Oilers for future consideration. So he heads to Edmonton. Edmonton's actually going to put him in the AHL so he can start playing right out of the gate and get back to it. What is trending is brought to you by Shamrock Plumbing. There's no job too big or too small. Get the personal touch with Shamrock Plumbing. Barry Tramel's going to stop by 8 o'clock this morning, sports columnist for the Tulsa World. Chris Armstrong, Utah Mammoth, president of hockey operations, coming up at 9:30. DJ and PK, we'll get to hot takes or toast. The question of the day is next.
This is Jake Scott and Ben Anderson.
Deion Sanders is very relevant, and it's cool that he says nice things about Kalani. Because Deion is so electric, everything he does is news, and saying nice things about the BYU head football coach is cool. And if you spend time with Kalani Sitake, you're going to like him. I bet you $1 zillion if you spend a few minutes with that guy, you're like, oh, this guy's cool.
I also think game recognizes game. Deion recognizes Kalani's a good coach. If you don't see that Kalani's good at this, it's a you problem. You know, if you're going to overlook Kalani and not recognize that what he's building is pretty special at BYU and that you're going to have to be prepared for it, you're just probably not a very good coach. But Kalani's done a heck of a job putting this program together. So I think Deion also has enough knowledge to recognize that what Kalani has built is authentic and is real and is something worth respecting. And I'm not saying steal a page out of his book, but recognize that what he's doing is doing it the right way.
Hear Jake Scott and Ben Anderson every day from 10 to noon on 97.5 The KSL Sports Zone.
Join Hans and Scotty at the El Matador Restaurant, 606 South Main in Bountiful, Friday from noon to 3. El Matador, Utah Mexican food staple for over 50 years. Time for Hot Takes or Toast. Question of the morning with Barry Tramel, Big 12 guru, coming up at the top of the hour. If it's not your team, who do you want to see win the Big 12?
Oh, that's easy.
Caleb had an easy answer. Anyone but Utah.
So you got 14 chances.
Yes. Well, yes, theoretically you do have 14. We're already crossing a couple of them off. Oklahoma State, West Virginia, not going to do it. But yeah, to your point, any one of them, right? Anybody, get it together in any given year.
Yeah.
Chad, Utah, and only Utah. I'm not rooting for any other team but Utah.
That's not true.
I hear Chad stamping his feet.
He's wrong. He doesn't even know himself.
If Utah gets eliminated and BYU's getting close, is there a chance Chad's going to root for somebody else?
Yeah.
It does seem like a pretty high possibility.
There's 7 other teams he's going to root for. They're going to play 9 conference games.
Whoever can beat BYU along the way, knock him out of the title game.
Oh, for sure.
And then if he gets in the title game, well, there'll be another team that he'll either be an 8th team or one of the 7 that he's rooting for the second time.
Yeah. That's what a rivalry's about.
Yep. Ryan is rooting for a meteor. If he doesn't get his team, he wants a meteor to strike the stadium. No game.
Or they can create a pandemic again.
Pretty violent, Ryan. GR says Utah. And go Dodgers. Don't get conflicted on the question here, GR. Stay focused. Gonna get distracted.
Go Utes and go Dodgers, huh?
Yeah, right.
Well, got a chance there for both of that to happen.
Steve and Daniel go with Cinderella, baby. Iowa State.
Iowa State, Cinderella?
Over 100 years of waiting for a title. Maybe not Cinderella. Maybe like a jinx team. I don't know. It's been a long drought.
Well, yeah, but that's why these teams, that's why somebody from Arizona State 2 years ago came up to me and said, when they were in Utah and got beat 55-3 before that game, said, we are ecstatic about being in the Big 12. We think we can compete and win at a level that we did not do in the Pac-12. And it took 1 year for that prophecy to come to pass. And Iowa State's right in that boat. Same boat. In fact, that boat is a luxury yacht because there are so many teams that are in that same or on that same luxury yacht. You're in a boat on a yacht. So I got to get my prepositional phrase there correct. And I think what he was saying to me, as I've thought about it in these, we're literally coming up on 2 years, right? Because it is at that time that, they were going in that direction. They knew they were still in the Pac-12 then when he said that, right? That 55-3 debacle was when they were in the Pac-12, right?
Yep.
And so he said that to me, knowing that the next year who was going to be in the Big 12. And that was last year, their first year, obviously, for these schools that were in the Pac-12 to be in the Big 12. And he said it with such conviction that when I listen to people, I like to talk to them face to face, and you can see it in their eyes. You can see it in their face and their whole body language to know, not necessarily you know that it's true, but you know that they really believe it. And a lot of times, the things that you know that they really believe, it can't be true in the moment because they're talking about things to come. I told you that time when somebody said to me at Utah, "Oh, we're going to beat Oregon this week," and I chuckled, and we're walking off the practice field. You can't even do that anymore. You can't get out there like we used to. And he stopped, and basically when I had a little chuckle laugh, like, yeah, okay. And he stopped right in his tracks, as they say, looked at me and said, "No, I am serious. We got this." And then they went out and hung 60 on him, right? It's the same type of deal. I always trust my instincts there. And when this man said that to me, okay, they really believe it. Now, they had to actually get in the conference for it to come to pass. And so far, that statement is 1 for 1. And as you think, or at least I think about it, I think that a team like Iowa State could say the same thing. And they were right there in the final. They had some turnovers and things went against their way, and they lost the game. I get that. But they were right there. And Iowa State has this opportunity to really take off. And I think it can be true. Absolutely, I think it can be true. And so what happened 100 years doesn't really matter because things have changed dramatically. And that's where we're at. And so it's going to be interesting to see. We may only have this conference until 2030 in its current configuration. But when we get there and we look back, who are the teams that we're going to look at as far as, they really took control? I think Iowa State has one of those opportunities. Certainly, I think that BYU and Utah do. And obviously, I've been talking about Texas Tech because there isn't that certified perennial big dog that it's proven itself year after year. Now, the Utes at the end of the Pac-12 had proven, in the last couple of years proven that they could be there. Well, it's a new set of teams, a new conglomeration. Can they do it? I think they can, but they have to do it. And there's a bunch there. That's what makes this thing, among other reasons, exciting, is that it's there for the taking. Who's going to take it?
Those 4 teams, Arizona State and the other 3, that don't have to live in the shadow of Oregon and USC. Not that you can't beat them, because obviously Utah did, but the deck is stacked against you. And Iowa State had the deck stacked against them with Oklahoma and Texas for so long.
Right.
And to be out of the shadow of those, man, to have that level of hope and think, okay, the playing field is way more even now than it was. I totally get why your source, or whoever you had that conversation with at ASU, would think that. And it did.
It was just an athletic official whom I've known for many years.
Yeah, it paid off right out of the gate for them, and it came very close to paying off for Iowa State.
Yeah.
Now, I totally get going with the team that hasn't done it, right? It's the feel-good story. Oh, it's been 100 and whatever. I think it's 113 years now since they won the Missouri Valley Conference by going 2-0. Okay. Wow. Everything has changed now. But there are people going in a different direction. And I get that a lot of people go for Iowa State, but how about this? Bleeding Blue says, if BYU can't do it, I want Texas Tech. They have the best chance of knocking off SEC and Big Ten teams. He wants a Big 12 win. Or wins, plural, but you got to get the first one first, in the playoff. So I get it. Does that help the league down the line? If you're in the next year, you're going to be seated better, get a home game or whatever? Or is it just going to make you feel better? Just like, at least one of us can do it.
I don't know about that, though.
Because you might, in the process, create a monster. I mean, it could benefit the whole league, but it would benefit Texas Tech the most.
Yeah.
And they've already
if
got
Texas
the money,
Tech dominates,
and they get a little momentum. Suddenly, you don't have to compete with USC, Oregon, or Oklahoma, or Texas. But if Tech becomes the new king of the hill because they got the most money, and then they start getting winning, and that creates its own momentum, maybe you've just grown a new monster.
Well, I think that's already happening.
Yeah, I can see why you would say that. But it is already happening, but it hasn't happened yet. And one thing the Monster has to have is a title, and then 2 in a row. And if not 3 in a row, 3 out of 4, right? And then it keeps building on itself. But you're right. We might be seeing it right now. And it's in the tree is in the process of growing, and everyone else is going to live in the shade of that big tree.
Well, that's what I'm predicting. I've been predicting it all along. There's a reason why I predicted Texas Tech to be in the final. We've already seen it, man. We saw it with their softball program. There's already hardcore evidence. It's not hypothetical. They came out of nowhere in softball, and it was done because of the finances. And so what, man? They're playing by the rules, right? And that's what they'll tell you. BYU will tell you because they get a little sticky and a little queasy, and they say they don't really like to be thought of as bought it, right? Even the Oregon people, when they were doing that with Phil Knight, they want to act like it's fair competition when it's not. But they're playing by the rules, and as long as you're doing that, who cares if it's fair competition? And they would get queasy about it. And Texas Tech is telling you, well, we're just doing what everybody else can do. They're defensive about it. And BYU, we're not the highest bidder. We're not the highest bidder. Yeah, so you offered $1 less. I mean, great. So you're not the highest bidder. And I pushed back with Santiago down in Texas, and I said, yeah, sometimes you are the highest bidder. I mean, you're never not the highest bidder. You can't keep saying that every single time for every single male and female athlete. It doesn't work that way. There are sometimes you are the highest bidder, and so what? Who cares? You're perfectly allowed to do that, so have at it, and way to go. And so nothing wrong with that, and that's where we're going. And I've already seen it. I just don't think it's going to necessarily be good for you. If you're not there and Texas Tech is, whoop-de-doo. Was it great for the PC2A that Vegas was winning all that basketball? No, it was great for Vegas. Majerus used to say that all the time. Under his breath, off to the side. What do I care about the WAC for? What good does that do me? If I get my team where I want it to be, that's all that matters.
If it's not your team, who do you want to see win the Big 12? Do you think a lot of the teams in the Big 12, because the league is still so new, that it's just a big old shrug? I mean, Iowa State's got a specific story. Texas Tech has a specific story. But a lot of these teams, they still don't resonate here yet. They only resonate in how you play against them and you watch them because you're going to play them the next week. But do you think most of these teams generate any emotion, vibe, feedback from people?
Yes. I think
what are the other storylines that generate that emotion?
I think BYU and Utah hate ASU.
Okay.
And
I can see
they
that
hate each other.
They won it last year. And for fans of a certain age, there's stuff that goes back. Well, more recently for the Utes, obviously.
I don't think it's. You don't think it's 40 years
You think it's
ago.
the fact that they won it and they recruit against each other?
Yeah, and Kenny Dillingham lost his mind at that 1 second to go.
Lose a game and get rubbed the wrong way. That is the best way.
And see, the fans, the local BYU fans don't have much interaction with Cincinnati.
Right.
But the local BYU fans, many of them have
an interaction
with Tempe.
Yeah.
And they've got family there, or they're from there, or they can go there. And they put in 50,000, and let's just say 500 drunk students treated you badly.
That's enough.
And that's what you're going to remember. Yeah. I had a local media member say to me last year in Tempe as we were walking off the field, "Boy, your fans, man, they're surely classless." Yeah. Because you had drunk students, and so let's make it the fan who jumped out and tackled the Utah cheerleader. Your fans at BYU, you surely are classless. I mean, there's one dude, right? And I looked at him like, yeah, drunk students acting outrageously. Who knew? I mean, that's going to happen every single time you go to that stadium. Every single time. And so, but anyway, that creates negative perception, negative feelings. So yes, it's regionally, and we're not in Texas, but we know about Tempe, we know about Tucson, we know about Provo, we know about Salt Lake, just like the folks in Texas know about each other. We don't know about them because we're not there. There's not going to be a whole bunch of teams because it's not regional. It's not like the Mountain West. It's not like the WAC. If you have that and you have the local, they have the feelings for each other. So, yes, it's just not going to be conference-wide.
Deion in Colorado, the only other one that's really going to pump anybody up, get anybody fired up. His celebrity, people love him or hate him. Or they're just not close enough now. We've already seen that, so it's not going to matter anyway.
Colorado was never part of us, right? They've jumped around leagues constantly. They jumped before the other Pac-12 schools jumped. It seemed like they've wanted out from day one, and I don't think there's that identity with Colorado that much. But maybe now, since they chanted and that's become a big deal, and they had fights in the stadiums or in the stands. I mean, blah blah blah. But it doesn't look like maybe I don't know how it's going to play out, but it doesn't look like every year BYU and Utah are going to be playing Colorado. So, but that's the nature of these conferences. I'm sure the Big Ten is feeling the same way with Washington and Oregon and Rutgers and Maryland and all. Yeah. You've got your rivals that you've had and you have history with, and the fans are geographically close enough that it's easier to go to games, or it is something that you have fans in Ohio that go to work in Michigan and vice versa, and obviously you got Michigan and Michigan State there. So I think that's just the nature of these spread out conferences. I doubt there's very many folks from Eugene or the state of Oregon that are living and working in Ohio, so you don't interact with them that much, right? Okay, well, that's the price that you've decided to pay. And, there's positives and negatives and everything, most likely.
DJ and PK, it's 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Barry Tramel, sports columnist for the Tulsa World, coming up at 8 o'clock. We'll talk to him about all of this. Got a new face with the Jazz organization. We'll get to that next. Stay with us.
It's game week for the Cougars, and the KSL Sports Zone is getting you ready for kickoff. The undefeated Cougars return home to Provo for a Friday night showdown against the Mountaineers of West Virginia. Listen all week long for the best coverage of Cougar football. Then catch the post-game show immediately following the game on KSLSports.com, as well as a complete wrap-up the following day on College Football Saturday beginning at 10 a.m. Your home for the best coverage of BYU football is live on air, online, and on the KSL Sports app. This is 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Artist of the day, Tom Petty, passed away 8 years ago today, 2017. Band of the day brought to you by Live Nation. For all the live concerts, events in 2025, check out livenation.com. DJ and PK, Marque Denmon is the new Jazz Arena announcer. Calling card. What's the phrase? What's the go-to line? What should it be?
Got to come up with something, huh?
Jeff says he should buy one of PK's. You got some extra lines lying around? Something he could pick up? Get a deal on it.
A deal? Do I have anything? Well, if I have something, then it wouldn't be his.
Unless you sell it. America.
It's got to be his.
Capitalism.
It's got to be his, man.
There's a lot of negativity. Okay, there's a lot of negativity around this.
Why?
Jason, and that's another loss, folks. Ryan, we're still terrible. David, Jazz lose. He'll get plenty of practice saying that. The negativity. Remember when, is this the market growing up, getting more cynical? Does that equate to growing up? It was a different vibe in the 90s. Everybody was so supportive. The media didn't write many negative stories. You came in from L.A. Gordon came in from L.A. You both felt it, and you guys didn't think you were very negative, but even a little thing, and everybody was calling Gordon in his hotel room. I can still remember I was on an airplane. I didn't know what was happening. That was in the days we weren't connected the way we are now. You're sitting in the airport. You don't know what's going on. You land. Gordon wrote this about Carl. You got to call him. And I call him. Hey, Gordon, I'm supposed to call you. But a little bit made a big splash then. And it seems like now, and maybe it's because we have more teams. You know, when you only have one team, you can't really shun it because then you don't have a team. But if you're sitting in New York, well, you got 9 teams in the 4 sports we've rooted for a century or whatever.
Okay, but what teams did we add?
You can shun one. What? Hockey. We got another one.
Yeah, but that was this year.
Yep. Well, it's new. It's new. And to be fair,
they've only grown up the last year.
And college teams are getting treated more like pro teams. And BYU looks like with the money, they're set to win, right? They've gone out and, well, in one case, hired a coach off a staff that was winning. And in another case, hired a guy out of the NBA who's got a huge rep. So maybe it's not fair to just label it to pro teams. If you have college teams that can do stuff on a big stage.
I don't think there's any more passion for BYU football. I think it's always been there.
So it's just all the losing. Don't overthink it. It's like, yeah, people were pumped because they won 50, and it'd be the same thing if they were winning 50 now and losing in the playoffs.
Right, because if you win 50 games during the regular season,
you got to be doing
even if
right.
it's remote, you still have a little bit of a chance, right? But now, I mean, obviously they're coming nowhere near winning 50 games. So, and it's been a pretty good losing run here.
Yeah.
Or I guess pretty bad would be the better way to phrase it.
But it is 3 years in a row, and there aren't many examples in Jazz history where you can look at 4 straight losing seasons.
Yeah, and then when you go the people who are paid by the team to sort of set the public agenda, like Locke, are telling you that they're not going to have many wins, and he's calling it like he sees it, right? I don't have any problem with him saying that because that's what he sees, and he has to have some credibility.
And we both
he
think
can't go out there and just sunshine.
We both think he's going to be right.
Of course. Everybody thinks he's going to be right.
He says it, and we're all nodding like, yeah, that makes sense to me.
Well, yeah, right. I mean, there's no other way around it. This is what they've decided to do. If I have an objection, which is minimal, but this is something that should have been done to the extent 3 years ago or so. And what took them as long as it did? Then maybe they can say, well, we didn't have the draft picks, and we had to draft the guys to get to this point. And okay, that's what I say. That my only objection, which is minimal, is that, and they can say, well, we didn't have all these young guys until now. What do you want us to do here? I'll say, okay. And, they flushed out the trade market and saw what was available, which in the end wasn't much. So they face reality, and rather than be thick-headed about it and continue, no, we're gonna wait for that first-round draft choice for fill-in-the-blank player that they just got rid of. Well, if it's not there 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, do you go 4 and 5 years? That doesn't make any sense. So they did what they did and got rid of the guys and got what they could because the market that they wanted wasn't there. So why knock your head against the wall 5 times in a row when the 6th time is going to be the same result as the prior 5 times? That's why I say my objection is minimal. And here we are now, and that's why I said when we went to Media Day, for me, and I know Jazz fans don't want to hear it. I get it. I understand it completely because you want your team to win. That's the whole point of being a fan. For me, this is it's a new start now, and people want to crack me upside the skull when I say that. What are you talking about, new start? We just had three crappy seasons. I understand that. But I think now all not half feet or 1 foot, everybody's in, and away we go at this point. And so that's what we have here. And for me, with the losing in mind, this is the most curious, most intrigued season for me as opposed to the other three.
Because maybe they bottomed out and it's on the way back up now. With young guys, mostly. I mean, there's obviously a few exceptions on the roster, but most of the minutes can be played by young guys who have a chance to be part of the future. Whereas before they were playing guys as they slowly tore it down and you thought, okay, this is a guy they brought in. I mean, from the second they traded for John Collins, it felt like that's a guy they could flip and get something. And ultimately they really didn't. The trade market ended up being very different, as Austin Ainge talked about on Monday. The contract matters more than the talent right now because the league is capped out because the salary cap hasn't been growing. So that didn't work.
Yeah.
But they bottomed out,
so
now it's 17
wins.
Are. Yeah. Well,
and you have some promising young guys.
Maybe whatever it is that Mark ends up saying that becomes a catchphrase revolves around a player who hasn't broken out yet, and we don't know, so maybe it just can't be written yet. Got to see who it is and what happens.
This is the place.
Ooh, see, there it goes. All right, DJ and PK, we got to take a break. When we come back, Barry Tramel joins us, all things Big 12 with the sports columnist from the Tulsa World. We will talk with him next right here on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. DJ and PK, we're joined once again by Barry Tramel, sports columnist for the Tulsa World, and here to talk all things Big 12 football. Barry, good morning.
How's things in Salt Lake?
A little quiet right now. The Utes are on a bye week, and the Cougars are getting ready to play a West Virginia team. We all just watched them. It looked terrible. They didn't put up any resistance against the Utes at home, so this just feels like a blowout Friday night in Provo.
Yeah, is this the weekend of the church conference where they always try to play on Friday night?
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that means you guys got a Saturday off.
We cover the Big 12. It never stops. Cincinnati, Iowa State, 10 a.m., ESPN2. We have our assignments. Iowa State just lost their starting corners, torn ACLs.
Yeah, that was bad. I got fired up. Did you see where Arizona State and Kansas are going to play in London next year? And I think it's like the third Saturday in September. It's not one of those early August games. So I'm hoping that means like a 9 a.m. kickoff. I hope they don't make it a night game in London because that just throw it into the middle of 1,000 other games. But if I'm all for 9 a.m. Saturday, Oklahoma time, I'm talking Oklahoma time, 9 or 8 a.m. kickoffs, get the add a window to the day. So, yeah, it's a bad weekend for Utah football, no doubt about it. Just West Virginia does stink, but they beat Pitt, so everybody's happy.
Yormark is trying to do these types of things to drive some attention towards the conference, and I appreciate that. Anybody who tries to be innovative, even if it doesn't necessarily work, because I don't know that you're going to hit on every single one of them, but I think it's important for the Big 12 to try to find its way to create as much buzz as it can in football. I think in basketball, it takes care of itself so far, especially with BYU now being in the mix, and you brought in Arizona, which is a perennial great team, and then BYU with Kevin Young catching the world by storm, bringing in DeBanza and all that, and the money that they have available. So basketball will be right there with anybody else. But for football, this London thing, it's not during the first week, as you said, but I do think it creates some level of buzz, even if it's not necessarily a financial windfall, maybe attention-wise. What do you think about that as far as them trying to carve out some attention directed their way?
Well, I think it's good. I'm with you. If you remember when he first got in there, he talked about playing a game in Mexico, playing in Monterrey.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And he forced me to get into something I've never been one of my strong points, which is Mexican geography. And I love geography, but I've never, outside of Tijuana and Juarez, which are border towns, I have not studied up on my Mexican geography. So I did. And Monterrey was actually, it's only like 170 miles south of the border. I think you go through Laredo. and then 170 miles south is Monterey. And I was telling the guys, hey, if Oklahoma State gets put in there, we'll just drive to Monterey. And then, of course, a little bit of common sense that took over. I said, maybe that's not a good idea. But we're not talking much about Mexican football just because the logistics of taking a football game to another country that you can't really batten down all the all the hatches. So I think they've looked more with the European market. And I'm not crazy about, I know I was talking about it, I'm not crazy about Kansas, Arizona State playing on a regular Saturday. I think the Irish thing works well because it is week 0. And I do think lots of eyeballs on that. This year we had a great game, K-State, Iowa State. I thought it did great for the conference. Next year it'll be TCU against whatever retread North Carolina trots back out there. But I don't think the hoopla over the Irish game carries much weight if you do it on a regular college football Saturday. Then it's just a game on TV, and if it's close, some people will watch, and if it's not, they won't. So I wish KU and Arizona State could figure out a way to get that London game moved to August, week 0. You know, that Iowa State, K-State came on, I think it's 11 o'clock Oklahoma time, which means like a 5 p.m. I think it's 6 hours difference. I was in Ireland last year, but I think it's 6 hours difference. So they play at 5 o'clock. Play one of those games at 5 and the other one at 8 London time or the island time. And that way, I think you get a lot more energy and a lot more bang for your buck if you do that.
I get where you're going with that, and I think you're probably right. I do give them credit for trying one of these, whatever this game kicks off Utah time, whether it's 7, 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning, to open the TV window. Because if you're the only game on, if there isn't an SEC game in that window, or there isn't a Big Ten game in that window, which there shouldn't be, then maybe they'll get a lot of viewers. But the week 0 thing is pretty much undefeated. 4 million people watched that Kansas State-Iowa State game, and that might end up being – If Colorado's good, they could play some games that have some big TV viewerships. But obviously, they just lost at home to BYU. So if they're merely okay, I don't think they'll get those kind of numbers. That Iowa State game might end up being the second most watched game in the league, but behind the conference title game. And the key with both of those is that they would be largely, if not completely, unopposed by other games. So I get trying one of those games. I think the other thing you should brush up on is your Canadian geography. Because that rule they've got about you get to play an extra game or you get to play week 1, that's if you leave the continental U.S. So go to Vancouver, go to Montreal. I mean, they got Dome Stadium. You can go to Toronto. They got places you can play and then play in a TV window where there is no one else. We had Mark Harlan, the Utah athletic director, on, and he said he'd talked to the commissioner about playing on the Wednesday of Thanksgiving week. Giving somebody a bye, and everybody's thinking football, you'd be unopposed, no Big Ten or SEC game to distract, no NFL game. I bet you could get a pretty big number. And anything anything to do to juice up the TV package and get more money next time they negotiate, that'll be doing it.
A Wednesday night game.
Mm-hmm.
You know, listen, the National Football League knows what it's doing. I'm not trying to tell them how to reinvent the wheel. But I came up with an idea that would make them bukus of money, and I've never seen it anywhere else, and so far they haven't acted on it. And someday they will, and I won't get credit. But I don't know why we don't have the NFL 7 days a week.
Well, especially
play Tuesday night football, Wednesday night football. Here's the deal. Everybody's got the bye situation. Go back to 16 games. But keep the expanded schedule with 18 weeks. Everybody has 2 byes. If you got 2 byes, you can manipulate the schedule all different kinds of ways and let people play on Tuesday and Wednesday night. The networks would just salivate over themselves at the thought of a football game. But I love your Wednesday night. I love the Thanksgiving Eve idea. I think that's fantastic. but I love myself some Canada. So I have a question. I got a question. All right, what is straight north or close to straight north of Salt Lake? Are we in the Calgary, Winnipeg?
Calgary.
All right.
Calgary and Edmonton, Alberta.
Okay. Well, then go play a game in Alberta with the Utes or the Cougars, either one. I think that'd be fantastic. Maybe Colorado could go play Winnipeg. I think is Winnipeg straight north of Denver or close to it, maybe. I don't know. But anyway, I love that idea. And most of them have stadiums that can adapt to American football. Somebody told me the CFL is even going back to more regulation American football. I just heard that last week. Their fields are getting they're shortening the end zones and narrowing the width to American. Somebody told me that last week. So maybe it wouldn't even be that big of an adjustment to play in a Canadian stadium.
We're also talking about this conference is going to be together at least in its current configuration to 2030. And is it good for the conference to have a team that dominates, or is it just simply good for that team? So it looks like Texas Tech, has the money to be able to make a run. We point to the softball, and I had looked it up. The Texas Tech softball was decent. I think like in 22 they had a losing season, and then 23-24 they were like 8-9 games above 500 or so. Then they go out and get that pitcher from Stanford, and they win 54 games, right? They don't have to play Colorado. Not Colorado. They don't even have a softball team. I don't know why I said Colorado. Oklahoma, which has been dominant because Oklahoma moves on, right? So they step up, and they get all the way to the title game in which they lose to Texas. And so is that going to help Big 12 softball, or is it just going to help Texas Tech? So with that in mind, if Texas Tech were to cash in on this money, and we saw what they did against Utah and Kyle Whittingham afterward, I thought he chose his words correctly when he, and intentionally, when he said they've assembled a great team. He didn't want to say bye because that would have been too obvious, but he used the verb he used was assembled. And to me, he was sending a message when he used that word assembled. If that's the case, is that good for the Big 12 or is it good for Texas Tech?
Well, I think it's better for Texas Tech, but it's also good for the conference. I mean, the Big 12's got to do whatever it can to get in position to have multiple teams in the playoff, because last year was such a disastrous result in that, I thought, and we've talked about this, I thought the committee just sort of patted the Big 12 on the head and told them to go outside and play while they did important business, just basically dismissing BYU from the discussion and putting in SMU. It'd be one thing if the committee had sort of slided the Big 12 for the benefit of the SEC or the Big 10. That's sort of American capitalism. That we could respect. But, to just say, hey, SMU, you've won your way in. And then BYU not even under consideration, considering what we all saw last September in Dallas. I just thought that was a horrible message for the Big 12. So anything they can do to counter that. And before you get two in, you got to get one in. So I think having Texas Tech emerge as a potential heavyweight is very good. Who knows? Maybe Tech can go 12-0, and then somebody go down there in Arlington and beat them in December. Iowa State, BYU. I don't know who else might be standing at the end, but Arizona State, whoever, doesn't matter. That'd be the easiest way to get two teams in. That's how the ACC did it last year. Is they had their champion or the regular season champion lose in the title game. So,
right,
the best indicator of future behavior is past behavior, and the committee showed us what they were going to do. Now I don't know if they'll keep doing it, but that's what they did last year. So, clearly, if Iowa State, let's say, can somehow keep winning, and Tech, if we've got two teams both under 2 losses, I think they'll both get in. But that's just hard to get there because of the parity, because of the 9-game conference schedule. Just so many teams are pretty even. We're not likely to have an Arlington title game of 12-0 versus 11-1 or 11-1 versus 11-1. So if Tech can get there, I think that's good for the conference. Even if you don't like the way they got there, even if you have to hold your nose and cheer for them, that's the best. I think that's the best scenario for the Big 12.
Lane Kiffin said dynasties are over in the SEC after the league added Texas and Oklahoma. He pointed out the transfer portal and NIL, pointed out the depth they had at Bama when he was there. That's no longer possible because kids can transfer immediately, get paid, and play. So no one's willing to sit there and be second or third string and wait their turn. I assume you agree with that. The question is, how big does the pool get? I mean, does this mean 16 teams are going to battle for the SEC title? Vanderbilt, who has been the last place team pretty much my whole life, is clearly better. We'll find out how much better. Mississippi State looks better. Or is it going to be, all right, the same 5 characters, maybe 6 teams past the SEC title round?
I'm going to say it's not going to be 16. But whoever the 7 or 8 are, I'll say 7 or 8, whoever the 7 or 8 are could change from year to year. In other words, last year South Carolina was really good, and they didn't make the playoffs. They went 9-3. They lost. I forgot who they lost to early in the year. They should have had LSU trapped and let them out. But South Carolina last year was as good as about anybody. This year they're not as good as anybody, and so I think it'll go up and down. Oklahoma last year was bad. This year Oklahoma's pretty good. They might even be, if the quarterback gets healthy, they have a chance to win a bunch of games. So I think it's going to go up and down, whereas we haven't seen that much in the SEC, right? Alabama forever, and then Georgia in the last 6, 7, 8 years, and then LSU pops up. But I think you're going to see a lot more new faces at the top, but it's going to be more fluid. And, we didn't have – if you go back – what year are we in? 25. Let's go back 10 years, and we were starting or in the middle of just total domination of virtually every conference, maybe except the Pac-12.
Yep.
Oklahoma won 6 in a row, Big 12 titles. Ohio State won never how many in a row, except they lost that one. The Penn State, I think, won one because they beat the Buckeyes and got to go to the title game. Clemson won 7 or 8 ACCs in a row. And so we saw dynasties inside conferences. And I think that's out the window. I think I got to be honest with you. Like in the Big 12, if you look at the AP poll, the top 3 teams in the AP poll right now are Ole Miss, Oklahoma, and Texas A&M. And they were picked in the preseason. SEC, I haven't looked it up, but somewhere around, I'm going to guess, 5, 9, and 10. And all of a sudden, the SEC is looking like the Big 12 in that nobody knew what they're talking about, in the preseason. And I think that's fun, personally. I think it's great. We haven't seen that come to the Big 10 yet. The Big 10 is really good at the top. It's sort of squishy in the middle, and it's bad, bad, bad at the bottom. But the other conferences, I do think we're seeing sort of a condensing of the gaps between everybody.
Yeah, I'd buy that. I just wonder if the Big 12 and your mark can sell the depth rather than the superpower at the top.
Yeah, it's good. The people holding all the power is the committee. Last year they looked at They looked at brand, which they're always going to look at brand, but they also looked at how many games you lost. Are they going to keep looking at that or not? I don't know. It'll be interesting to see. But the Big 12 is always going to be swimming upstream. But I do think if we could and the Big 12 has hurt itself. I mean, Arizona State losing to Mississippi State was just disastrous for the conference, just disastrous. And the Big 12 ended up this year without many marquee non-conference games. Like Utah played UCLA. Well, turns out UCLA stinks. BYU played Stanford. Stanford stinks. Iowa State played Iowa, beat Iowa. That was good. Iowa's a pretty good team. But the Big 12 just didn't get many chances at good non-conference wins. And then, like in the case of Arizona State, didn't capitalize. When you got Texas Tech, I mean, their marquee non-conference game was Oregon State, I think, or Washington State. It was one of the two.
Yeah.
One of the two.
Oregon State. It was Oregon State.
Yeah, Oregon State. I mean, that's so the Big 12 didn't do it. It didn't do itself any favors. So, they got to keep fighting the schedule as well as they can, and then win some of those games. That's what's going to help the most, I think.
Yeah. Baylor lost to Auburn. That was a miss.
Baylor lost to Auburn.
Kansas lost to Missouri. That was another miss.
Yeah.
But I did see a thing. They've got they have a winning record. The Big 12 has a winning record versus the other Power 4 leagues. I think it's 10-6. But to your point, it's mostly teams in the bottom half of the power leagues. The marquee wins, just unless SMU has a really good season or Mississippi State unexpectedly blows up here, they're not going to have any marquee wins.
Right.
I mean,
Iowa. North Carolina was going to, supposed to be a good marquee win if TCU beat them. Well, it turns out, they're the ghost of Bill Belichick. So, it just didn't work out very well. Pitt stinks, and I think they're working. I think they're trying hard on the schedule. I haven't actually looked at it in a few months, but I know Oklahoma State's got Alabama coming up for a series, and some other people are working on those kinds of things. But they need to play as many of those games as possible and then win some of them.
Yep. Barry, we'll leave it right there for now. We appreciate it as always. If you can stay up, let's see, BYU, that'll be a 9:30 kickoff in Oklahoma. So that means that thing's going to wrap up about 1, although officially it could be over by 11, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I'll be there with the Cougars. Now, the way I live my life is, heck, I'm so busy. I got 2 granddaughters in high school, and they're both playing sports and running around to homecoming parades and all kinds of stuff. I don't think did I tell you about my granddaughter? She goes to her football. She's a high school sophomore, plays softball. She goes to the high school football game the other night, and it was dress-up night, and you're supposed to dress up for something. I forgot. Cookout was the theme or something. Well, she wins the costume contest. She had the best costume out of all the students who dressed up, which qualifies her for a kick, make a field goal for $100 and Chick-fil-A coupons. Well, she calls and said, "Hey, I want a costume." And I was actually covering something or doing something. I didn't get to be involved in any of this. But my wife and everybody runs over there and make sure they see. And she's over there on the sidelines warming up. The 2 kickers from Norman North High School come over, and during the game, they're tutoring her and showing her how to kick, and she's just kicking it sideways. And my wife said she almost hit a woman in the head in the stands. But she goes out there for the kick, and danged if she didn't make the field goal.
Nice.
And she goes crazy, and the students start chanting her name, and it was like one of those unbelievable moments. So yeah, I'm. You never know when you get a call that you need to go watch your granddaughter kick a field goal for $100. But I'll be with the Cougars because of I'll tape the game, and I actually love the late starting games. They're my favorite things. And Saturday night we only got one. I forgot who it is, but it's not a great one. But yeah, I love the late night games. So good luck to the Cougs. I don't think they're going to make it. By the way, I thought Bachmeier was really good against Colorado down the stretch. I thought he made a bunch of good scrambling plays. Seemed to have a nose for when to run and tuck and make some yards. So I was pretty impressed with the freshman.
Barry, it's Duke and Cal and Nevada and Fresno State. Those are your 2 late-night games.
Yeah, Duke and Cal.
Yeah, it's time to go to bed early on a Saturday night. Maybe let's see playoff baseball. You can watch that instead. Maybe that'll be good.
Yeah, maybe so. Yeah. Maybe so.
All right. Thanks, Barry.
All right, see you guys.
All right, Barry Tramel, sports columnist for the Tulsa World, joining us every week to talk Big 12 football and talk college football. Coming up 9:30, 1 hour from now, Chris Armstrong, Utah Mammoth, president of hockey operations. We will talk with him. Next, we're giving away tickets to see Real Salt Lake. This is it, final home game. Colorado's coming in. We got tickets to give away. We'll do it on this side of this break. Stay with us. Caller 12 right now, 801-575-ZONE. We'll win a pair of tickets to see Real Salt Lake take on the Colorado Rapids Saturday night, America First Field. Caller 12 right now, 801-575-ZONE. And you will win. Just had Barry Tramel on, columnist in Tulsa, covering all things Big 12. I thought he said it best about Texas Tech to kind of blend that with the hot takes or toast discussion we had. If Texas Tech gets on a roll, wins the conference, maybe wins a game or two in the playoff, it's good for the Big 12. It's better for Texas Tech. Now, I can see where other teams get a boost out of it, and I guess you get a check out of it if they advance. But it's better for Texas Tech. Back to your point, does that help them plant the flag and just keep developing whatever behemoth, whatever massive program they're going to build down there?
Big 12 when Oklahoma was winning 6 in a row? How did it benefit Iowa State?
Well, look at them now. They did something right. And it's a different era now.
Oklahoma left.
That helped.
Hey, was it good for ASU that SC was dominating? How?
Yeah, I thought your Big West PCA thing, we were at the end of the segment there. I thought UCSB benefited when UNLV went big because when UCSB beat them, it enabled them to get an 8 seed, something they could never, ever get now in that era. So they rode them a little bit, and they won a game. It's the only game they've ever won in the NCAA tournament. So it can benefit you a little bit.
What did it do?
What?
Right. Now you've gone from it can benefit you to it benefit you a little bit.
Well, I don't know that Iowa State's going to grow some massive powerhouse, but when you haven't won a conference title in 100 years, plus, if you win one, that'd be a big deal. And if it gets you a better seed, if it gets you a better seed in the playoff.
What does that have to do with Texas Tech?
Do you get a better seed in the playoff?
If Iowa State wins, that has nothing to do with. If Iowa State wins, that has nothing to do with Texas Tech. That just means Texas Tech didn't win it.
So if Texas Tech wins a playoff game this year, the Big 12 won't be looked at differently. It won't help whoever follows them down the line, assuming someone follows them down the line and they don't just keep doing it every year.
Right. Well, because if someone else follows them down the line, then Texas Tech didn't dominate. So that makes the discussion moot. In order for it to work, Texas Tech has to dominate. So having someone else win it eliminates the discussion anyway. So who cares?
Not PK.
I guess that's one way to admit you lost. It just having Texas Tech dominate just means hurrah for Texas Tech. I get from the conference standpoint, that's the party line. You're supposed to say it, so you're going to fall in line and say it. Because even though there may be zero evidence, it just sounds good. So that's what we say. I mean, I just don't know how Oklahoma State benefited from Oklahoma winning all those conference titles. I'm trying to figure out.
Yeah.
How in the world did ASU basketball benefit from Arizona?
They never have.
Dominant. Yeah.
I think the only way that works is if you get so frustrated with school X, whoever it is winning, that it forces you to raise your game.
Again, and that's a cliche. Everybody says that. I get that. Except, how does that really work?
Well, Chris Hill said that when he had a friend who was at Ohio State go to San Diego State, and he said never underestimate the value of having a rival because you've got to chase them. Utah's got it. When Utah's getting beat by BYU for 20 years, they got to figure out a way to get it done. And when BYU basketball is losing to Majerus, it motivates them. You got to figure out a way to get it done.
Okay,
so can a rival or another big dog in your league force you to raise your game? And maybe that's how Texas Tech helps. Or, hey, it's going to be every man for themselves in 2030 when the conference realignment starts, so whatever.
Haven't we already proven that?
Yeah.
Well,
as long as
really unified.
As long as the Big Ten has an appetite to expand, then, nobody controls that but them. But once they do, then everybody gets in their own boat and starts paddling.
Yeah, I think they're already there. And each institution has to answer for it for itself. I do think that you have some. I do think that in that instance, I do think the Arizona schools, most definitely from what the conversations I've had, want to be tied together. Now, you don't have that here in our state because you have a private institution and a public institution. In the state to our south, there are two public institutions. And they want to be tied together. And more importantly, the powers that be want them to be tied together. And so it's likely that they are going to be, which I think is good for the state. Absolutely. Me personally, I wouldn't want to see those two schools be in different conferences. It's weird enough that to me, that's over the top. I was too young to really comprehend, wasn't really into college sports at the time when they went from the WAC to the Pac-10. As I grew and became more aware of college sports, I mean, it was just barely in Arizona at that point. I wasn't into it. I had no ties there, nothing. It meant nothing to me. I'm growing up in the Northeast. College sports just weren't that big of a deal. And it probably took me 10 years living in the Valley to get aboard college sports. And most of it was when I moved to California and everybody was into college sports. And, well, I went to college. I got a degree. Well, I'm going to root for my school, too. That's sort of what it was for me.
Your other option was to sit in the corner like a dork and let everyone else have fun, and you just be a troubled loner. I mean, that's not really a great option.
Although I am at that anyway.
Not to that degree, and that's why you went out there and talked to ASU. To a degree, sure.
It was
to a degree, we all are. Who are we kidding?
It was fun to do that, yeah. And that's when it really took off. So we're talking in the 80s for me because I had such a dominant influence in the Northeast, and that's the way it is back there. And you've talked about it. I mean, that's just the way it is, and it'll most likely always be that way. So I get all that. But now, all these years later, that would be a non-starter for me to have those two schools be separate. It just seems like that's the one thing that state has is that stupid territorial cup. It may mean nothing to anybody else, but we got it, right? And it probably doesn't even mean that much to a good portion of the people in the state because they came from someplace else. But I think the state has grown up enough now that it is there's enough natives or enough people who like I'm not a native, but I've been there for so long, or at least have a connection for so long.
At least went to school there. Go to high school and college there.
And and which obviously I did, and then worked for a bit. And I think that's what we have here. There's no question in this state. And then you have Portnoy out here. What was it, 2 weeks ago now? And he's talking about first exposure to the rivalry. I think that if people got out here and got exposed to the rivalry, they would come to the same conclusion. We got three bright minds who've come. Well, I mean, you probably don't count because you were following San Diego State. But for myself, I had that revelation like Portnoy had 2 weeks ago. Now, I had it 30 years ago, right, to realize, wow, this thing is really awesome. Yeah, there's a couple of downsides to it. We understand that. But for me, as I evaluate it, this thing is impressive. This thing needs to go at a much higher level. People need to know about this because this is really awesome. The intensity, and you want to go. Hopefully, it's just sports hate, and that's where you draw the line. And to see that, that's why I think that it would be best if these two teams stayed together. But I'm also a realist to know that no, that's probably not the way it's going to be 25 years from now, maybe even 5 years from now. Who knows? You know what I mean? Who knows what's going to happen? We anticipate. But I believe what you're saying is that with these schools, if it comes to Big Ten or whatever configuration it might be, and Utah gets an invite, they're going to do just like they did with the Pac-12. We're out. And I agree with you on that 100%.
DJ and PK, it's 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Stay with us. More football on the way. And Chris Armstrong, Utah Mammoth, president of hockey operations at 9:30. Yak, you give away those tickets? We're going to be giving away more tickets?
We are.
When do you want to do that?
We will be doing that when Chris Armstrong comes on.
Aha! If you want to win Mammoth tickets, make sure you're here at 9:30 when Chris Armstrong comes on. We'll do that then. DJ and PK, it's 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
This is Jake Scott and Ben Anderson.
Deion Sanders is very relevant, and it's cool that he says nice things about Kalani. Because Deion is so electric, everything he does is news, and saying nice things about the BYU head football coach is cool. And if you spend time with Kalani Sitake, you're going to like him. I bet you $1 zillion if you spend a few minutes with that guy, you're like, oh, this guy's cool.
I also think game recognizes game. Deion recognizes Kalani's a good coach. If you don't see that Kalani's good at this, it's a you problem. You know, if you're going to overlook Kalani and not recognize that what he's building is pretty special at BYU and that you're going to have to be prepared for it, you're just probably not a very good coach. But Kalani's done a heck of a job putting this program together. So I think Deion also has enough knowledge to recognize that what Kalani has built is authentic and is real and is something worth respecting. And I'm not saying steal a page out of his book, but recognize that what he's doing is doing it the right way.
Hear Jake Scott and Ben Anderson every day from 10 to noon on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
The John Watson Northern Utah High School Player of the Week Award features co-winners this week, Dyson Parker from Weber High School and Tramel Halilo from Layton Christian Academy. Parker tallied 168 yards rushing and 4 touchdowns, so the Warriors beat Layton 48-20, while Halilo ran for 2 touchdowns, caught another, had an 80-yard kick return for a TD in the Eagles' 56-0 shutout of Judge Memorial. Don't miss the KSL Sports Night Game Night live game of the week this week as the Ridgeline Riverhawks take on the Stansbury Stallions. Catch the action tomorrow night on KSLSports.com, the KSL Sports app, or here on the KSL Sports Zone. See why new and used car buyers give John Watson Chevrolet more 5-star reviews than any other Chevy dealer in Utah. John Watson Chevrolet, your 5-star Chevy dealer.
Yes. Sometimes, DJ, it's just good to put your feet up.
There it is. Are your feet up high?
Oh, yeah. I feet of my own sitting way up high, way up firm and high.
Nice. Lone Peak and Skyridge tonight if you want to see a game, PK. Those are two pretty good teams right there.
Where's Skyridge?
Skyridge is between Lone Peak and Lehigh. They built a new school right there on that highway. You can actually see it when you're on I think it's State Route 92.
Yeah, I'm familiar with that program. For some reason, the name didn't click right away, but I know which ones you're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just to the south if you're going east.
They do the RPI thing, and Lone Peak is 4 and Skyridge is 3. Davis 2, and of course, and your Corner Canyon Chargers are number 1 with Davis nipping at their heels. So, teams that could easily be in the semis, and then we'll see what they do when they get there.
Get to the stadium, huh?
You know, that used to be a big thing. It was the turf. The turf. Now all the high schools have turf fields, so that expression's kind of out the window. They all used to play on grass, and they only played on artificial turf when they made it to the state semis at Rice-Eccles. So I don't know what the expression is now.
Yeah, but to me, I think if I'm a high school kid or if I'm a fan or whatever, To get to the stadium to play in Rice Eccles?
I just don't know they have an expression, but you're right. Yeah, to play in a stadium where you've watched games on TV.
Get to the stadium.
Yeah.
Get to RES.
That'd be a big deal.
Get to the facility that Kyle built.
Not exactly.
Well, with the Garf's built in the south end zone then.
Okay.
It's still a fine place to play.
It'd be Mac would be the one we give credit for. That got built, that opened in 97. But now BYU fans are like, yeah, it's a stadium the Olympics built.
Well, sure, that helped at the time. I get that. But I think that, yes, the respect that needs to be given to Utah's football program, like Joel Klatt provides every chance he gets, is because it was earned. And so they had benefits along the way. Austin Ainge, it didn't hurt that he had his father to help him to get in the business. But who was it? I think it was Ryan Smith, accurately, because I've been following Austin because I've known him for over 20 years, saying that he's been in every gym in the world to scout. Well, that's because it's true. So same type of thing. Okay, the Olympics maybe helped the stadium get going. Fine. No problem there. But to be what it is today, the atmosphere and the program, I don't think it has much to do with the Olympics now. And I don't think Austin Ainge got the job now based on his father. He got the job. This guy was on the cusp of getting jobs like this. I just know this, it's the truth, that he has interviewed and he thought he had at least one other job, didn't work out, and we've often heard that story. I think it applies across the board, no matter what what type of life you're earning as far as a living goes, that, oh man, I really wanted this job, I didn't get it, and it was a blow. But X amount of time later, something came along that was way better. And looking back, I'm glad I didn't get that job A, because maybe I wouldn't have been in a position to have job B, and job B really suits me better, or that type of thing, right? And so Austin has earned the right to have this position. Did it help that he got in 20 years ago? Sure, fine. You want to go that way? I don't care, whatever. Same thing with the stadium. Utah is a fine football program. If I'm a high school kid, I would love to play in there and be in that new south end zone in their locker room and all that stuff. How cool is that? Because 95% or 99% of these kids, that's going to be it. So you got that.
And the 4A and the 5A and the 6A, there'll be, I guess when it's all done, there'll be a dozen teams in the state that get to play up there.
Is that what they do, 4, 5, and
4,
6?
5, and 6A usually go there for the semis. Sometimes they move the 4A. If it's two teams from Southern Utah, they'll play in Southern Utah. But I don't think that's happened a lot recently. And once a long time ago, they moved it up to Utah State and had a massive crowd because it was two teams from the Cache Valley meeting. So they've done it, but it usually ends up in the stadium, and the semis do.
Yeah, and high school sports, their seasons just blow by, man. They go by so freaking fast. Yeah.
Although high school football is now 15 weeks long.
Well, yeah, if you should have that benefit. Yeah. Jackson Dart, this is the first time he actually beat the Chargers. Normally, he joins the Chargers.
Hey, see? There you go. Nice. Have fun with nicknames and go. DJ PK coming up, 9 o'clock hour. We got more for you, including Chris Armstrong, Utah Mammoth President of Hockey Operations, and tickets to see the Mammoth play. That's all coming up at 9:30. Stay with us. Nominate the youth sports volunteer that you know for the Hercules Hero of the Week. Submit your nomination at kslsports.com/contest and listen every Thursday afternoon to JJ and Alex for the winner. Help us celebrate the efforts of those volunteers making an impact with the Hercules Hero of the Week, sponsored by Hercules First Federal Credit Union and Beehive Meals. Your feet just keep going up higher and it just keeps feeling better, man. Those dogs have been tired. You got to let them breathe.
Yeah, absolutely, man. It's good you're here to do this in your own style, shall I call
it? Reading words off of a paper. Yes! We have one segment to talk college football, PK. anything you would like to share, unless it's about the Rams and Niners tonight, and I don't believe you really have much to offer on the Rams to Niners tonight. The Niners are missing their starting quarterback, Brock Purdy, and 2 wide receivers are out, and they look very shorthanded, so that doesn't look like much of a game.
Yeah, the Niners are the new Utes. Seem to always have injuries get in the way of what they're trying to accomplish as far as that goes. I mean, this is a boring week relative to the local teams, with 2 teams being on the bye, and then BYU, it so happens that they're playing West Virginia.
Which feels like a bye, even if it's a game.
And West Virginia's in a rebuild and has to come all the way out here to play a game on a short week for them.
Could be down 3 quarterbacks, no less.
Right, and then they've got they're not very good to begin with, and then they've got the injuries at the quarterback spot, which sucks, but I mean, that's the situation that you come up with. And so for BYU, I think it's important to put it on them and do like they did, who was at Portland State, and because you never know, man. You just never know. And the season goes on with these injuries. You don't get an opportunity to, we need an extra week. Okay, take the week off. No, the games come whether your guys are healthy or not, and get some other guys in there, particularly at the quarterback spot, because you just don't know. And it's not necessarily, for a building situation. It is something for this season, because who knows who's going to be here. You never know who's going to be here from one year to the next, and you get surprised with kids coming and going. So you're not looking to get them experience maybe for down the line. You're looking to get them experience for right now, in case you need them, particularly at the quarterback spot. And that's a position that, obviously only playing one dude, that's what you're going to do. But I think what's really cool for BYU is that, just 2 years ago, we wouldn't have looked at this game and thought, oh, wow, this is just a blow-off game. This team is way superior. But in just a couple of years' time, when they've been in the conference, that they're able to be at this point where we expect them to blow out West Virginia. And when they first got in the league, it was scrap and fight for everything. And, they finished 5-7, and then they turned it around last year. And it looks like that this is going to be a continuing situation this year. We'll see what the years to come do. But for now, yeah. And I think that's really cool for BYU that that's where they're at, to think that West Virginia's going to come out here and we're going to smoke them. We're going to get Hillstead, Bourget, whomever into the game and go from there, get Bachmeier out of the game, get Chase Roberts out of the game, and so forth and so on. That's just big time when you think about where they were to where they are in such a short span of time. And even if you go back, DJ, beyond that, I can recall talking to guys who follow the recruiting stuff way closer than I do as the end of independence was wearing on, that this thing was getting away from them and they just weren't getting the guys, and guys were going to Utah or in other places, and it seemed like it was bordering on not hopeless, but bleak would probably be a better word rather than hopeless, because they could still manage, have enough talent to win a few ball games, but there was really no buzz about the program, right? And then they get the lifeline with the Big 12. The first season, Slovis gets hurt, it gets disappointing, but then they turn it around, and now here we are 2 years later thinking, oh gosh, man, they've got this game sewed up, so they're gonna move to 5-0. You realize how difficult it is to get to 5-0, and here we are taking it for granted? That's just awesome for the football program to be where it is right now.
I think it was the period you're talking about, and whether it's running in place or treading water, but Kalani years 2, 3, and 4. It wasn't bad. Well, year 2 was bad, but that period was basically 500 football. Probably a little under. If you add it all up, they would have been like 3 games under, but I can't do that much math on the air. 18-21, I think, over a 3-year period. And so there was no spark. There was no – now – the recruiting started getting better. The Big 12 shows up. The transfer rule, the NIL, well, everything's changed. Stuff you couldn't have predicted in 2017. Some of it hoped for. The Big 12 one day. But even that hope had already been offered and then dashed. Couldn't find a 12th team, so I'm not doing anything.
Yeah,
but I guess it's just the lesson there is don't get too far down, because college sports changes and reinvents itself. And we already expect change in the 2030s, and maybe it breaks for you and maybe it breaks against you, regardless of which school we're talking about, any of our local schools. But who's to say something isn't going to change in the 2040s? That run they stayed in the WAC for 35 years, roughly. That was a fair amount of consistency. And they did lose Arizona. Arizona stayed out of the WAC in there, and they brought in San Diego, Fresno, and Air Force and Hawaii, right? But that was pretty stable. But other than that, it seems like every decade. I mean, the 2000s with the Mountain West were different. The 2010s with the Pac-12 and Independence are different. The 2020s with the Big 12 are different. The 2030s, we're expecting different. And don't know exactly what it's going to look like, but I think it's going to be different.
Yeah, but different doesn't necessarily mean good for you.
The fact. 100%.
Maybe
but even if
somebody else,
even if it goes bad for you in that decade, there's no telling if it'll go better in the next decade.
Okay, right. But you're right. There is no telling.
Yeah.
You take nothing for granted. The only thing that matters right now is that the Cougars got that lifeline with the Big 12, and I think it's hard to quantify. Is it more important to have the money? Well, I would say that, sure, you got to have the money. That's a fact. But I think that the bigger thing is the Big 12. And then I think they catch a break with the demise of the Pac-12, bringing in some regional teams, so it's not we're this lone wolf way out
on the
here.
west side. Yeah, right.
And so you got that there, and we saw it. I was there at Tempe last year. That thing, I'd say minimally was, in my estimation, 20% full of Cougars. It was sold out, so you got 100%. All the seats were taken care of. But I would think in that with 20%. I don't know that they're going to get to that level if the game is against Baylor, say, late in the season, right? And it's down in Waco. You're always going to get some church members and some Cougar fans from here or alumni combined with the church members to where they're going to get a decent-sized representation no matter where they go. I've seen it. I've seen it in Georgia, about as far as you can go. I saw it in Florida, which is about as far as you can go because I've traveled with BYU a lot over the years. So we know that. But down there in Tempe, there was a significant amount of folks there. And so that leads it to more interest. So they get that because say they got the money. They probably, if they stayed in the West Coast and Independent with the new rules with the money, they could probably still have the money, but I don't think that – does DeBonsa come and play in the West Coast Conference? No. He just doesn't, right? And some of these other kids, does Bachmeier come and play if they're independent? I have no idea, but I can make an argument no, right? So the money's great, and you need it, but they needed that affiliation too, and they got it. And so then they were presented with that opportunity, and now they've taken advantage of it where we had doubts, because they went 5-7 in the first year, and the recruiting had not been, if you look at the numbers, and I know we make fun of recruiting. I'm always in a quandary with recruiting. I try not to make a big deal of it, but yet it is a big deal, and yet these star things we see, this kid's got 4 stars, and the other kid's got 2 stars, and when it's done, the 2-star kid was way better. So I say, see that recruiting, it doesn't really matter. And you talk to any recruiting coordinator, which we all have, and they'll say, yeah, we don't look at those stars. We look at what we evaluate. But yet, you need that. And so I've always go back and forth on the recruiting. I can't really put my handle on it to say it's not that important or it's the most important thing. It's somewhere, it is important, but it's important that you get it right. I think that's where I end up, not stars. If they have the stars, great. I think it's most important that the individual programs get it right with recruiting. And here BYU has been getting it right. What did you say, Yak? Was it that Evan Johnson coming out of Monterey didn't have any offers? Is that what it was? BYU was his only offer?
BYU is his only Power 4 offer.
Power 4 offer.
Yeah.
Oh, that kid's turned into a pretty good player. Right? And so it was his only Power 4 offer. He takes it, and, yeah, he's been very good to where we saw on video that the Colorado fans are bleep you Johnson. Well, if he's not that good, they ain't saying that, right? But they saw the week before he comes up with some big-time plays to help BYU get some breathing room and win the game going away, right? So recruiting does matter, and they've been able to advance their recruiting, and the money's a factor, but I think that Big 12 thing was the lifeline that they needed, and they got it. And now, gosh, we're expecting – there's still work to be done, a ton of work to be done, actually. But if they only go 8-4 this year, we could say, wow, I'm a little bit disappointed with that. With a freshman quarterback, we still would say, I'm a little disappointed by that season. At least I would right now. That may change in a few weeks. But right now, if they only go 8-4, when I use the word only, come on, with a freshman quarterback who wasn't in the program until May, that's where we are with the Cougars. That's pretty impressive to say, hey, I'm disappointed with a freshman quarterback and we went 8-4.
If that's the storyline, that would be an impressive story to tell. I do think your point about recruiting, I would say recruiting is very important. What isn't as important is any one player. And one player's celebrity sells and star power sells, and you get all caught up in one player. Well, the one player doesn't matter that much. Recruiting as a whole matters a lot. You got to recruit a lot of good players. But some of those guys are going to switch positions. You're going to follow it up by the transfer portal. There will always be kids who are overlooked. I mean, the only reason Jay Hill could bring all these kids out of Weber State to transfer, I mean, Eddie Heckard came in and played right away in the defensive backfield. Obviously, Kelly has come in as a linebacker and had massive impact. I mean, these guys are overlooked. They are. But we can look at NFL guys who are overlooked. So any one kid, you can't get caught up about the stars and whether he's great or whether he's not. But, man, as I think it was Gary Anderson was saying, yeah, you hit on 30% of your recruits, you're going to be unemployed. you got to hit on 2 out of 3.
If you hit on 2 out of 3 quarterbacks, you might be unemployed.
Well, as the ripcord gets pulled faster and faster, and we're seeing it at Oklahoma State and UCLA already this year, there's some truth to that. Now, you could probably argue that there were other major contributing factors, and you can get to those guys getting fired.
Yeah, for sure. Man, I would argue that Bachmeier is the most important addition they've had in their program in a good long while.
I mean, it's different now in that you can add a transfer, every year. But man, how many years do you get to miss? 2 or 3? At most schools, I don't know many schools are going to let you miss 4 times. I don't think that's happening.
Yeah,
I mean, Kyle was on the hot seat after 2, 5, and 7, so a bad year 3. So he had 3 years, right? Kalani was on the hot seat after going into a second bad year. Well, he had 1 bad year. If the second year was bad, then that might have been. I mean, we've heard that multiple times from people inside the.
The second year was 7 and 6. It's not exactly.
No, I was just talking recently when he went 5 and 7, and he made major changes, and he had to get them right. I mean, there are people, and I don't know how it would have played out if it would or wouldn't have happened, but I know people who are getting a paycheck there, and you know them too, who think if he'd had another 5 and 7, jobs could have been lost.
Yeah, because Kalani Sitake has been doubted.
Yeah, exactly.
And there's reasons why he's been doubted. I wrote about that, took all sorts of grief about it because they didn't want to hear it, but they were wrong.
Yeah.
And now he's answered those questions, and now he's beloved.
I think he would say he's answered those questions, again.
Well,
this is 3 double-digit win seasons for him, and we'll see how this one plays out. Maybe he can get a 4th. I mean, certainly they're 4-0, and we think they're going to be 5-0, so it's certainly on the table.
I think they'd be approximately halfway there.
Yeah, except numbers, PK. Tell the story behind the numbers. You're not a numbers guy. The back half of the schedule is way harder than the front half of the schedel.
It is. But
nonetheless,
there's no question.
Win the games you're supposed to win. That's how you get to 10. You got to win a lot of games.
But the thing about Bachmeier, too, they get him in May.
Yep.
Did they get him without Aaron Roderick being there and having a track record? Did they get him without being in the Big 12? Did they get him without being able to throw some cash? Yeah. They need all of that stuff in order.
Any one of those things might be enough to mess up the deal and end it. It doesn't happen. But you got them all, right? A-Rod can say, hey, this guy played here. He's in the NFL. This guy played here. He's on an NFL roster, right? You got to be able to do that. And you're right.
Yes.
You got to have the money. And also,
they get him in May because that Retzlaff thing goes down way late in the school year.
But if BYU were independent, then they're viewed as a G5 team, and Bachmeier probably wants to be in a power league. So now he's going late, and there aren't a lot of jobs open. Maybe that would have played in their favor, but like you say, better they have everything lined up the way they do.
I think Bachmeier could have gone some other places because it was clear he was willing to sit a year.
Mm-hmm. And that does give you options, and he was younger, so he had that opportunity. It's not, It's not the same deal as Retzlaff, who couldn't sit a year and had to play right away.
Right.
So that limited his options.
And the stature of the program allowed them to get a player of his caliber, which that's what I'm talking about. The stature of the program in just less than a handful of years from where it was to where it is. That's an impressive increase and an impressive amount of growth that you have to just sit back and say, wow, that is really, really good work that they were able to get where they were to where they are. And it's sure being 4-0, 5-0 is great, but just the opportunity to get a kid like Bachmeier, I'm telling you, man, when they got him, they were ecstatic because they knew he had plenty of options, and he chose here, and then he goes out there and does his thing. Yeah, and that's really, really cool to where now we're expecting them to take on a Big 12 opponent who has been in a power conference for several years now. And I realize they're a little bit of a down, and that happens. Things go and it gets away. Oklahoma State's going through that now. We get that. And they just didn't go the normal way in the manner that some of the other schools who made the adjustment, they made that adjustment pretty quick. And that's also a credit to their administration. And they had 2 years to prepare for it, and they knew it was coming, and they knew what the changes that they had to make. That's the one thing I can step back and say about BYU as an athletic program and really BYU as an institution is that somewhere along the line, and I think it was my own opinion mixed in with some conversation and some intel, is the credibility that Tom Holmoe had with his supervisors, that he could go into that and say, hey, listen, man, this is what's going to happen here, and we have got to step up our game in a checklist of ways. If we want the results that we're looking for, that this is what we have to do. And Tom, being in that position, allowed that to happen because he had the credibility to be able to go to his supervisors and who may not have the training athletically, right? I'm sure they're all bright and all that stuff, and they all have to, the Santiagos of the world have to compliment these guys because they're their bosses when they think they know sports. Yeah, great. But you don't know what it takes, really. Tom and Brian did, and they were able to get it done to where they are now. And it looks like, at least for the next X amount of years, that this thing can continue. And I think that's a big-time story right there.
When we come back, the Utah Mammoth coming home for a preseason game. How's the arena changing? Where are you going to get your new gear? Utah Hockey Club. That's all souvenir stuff now. Where do you get the Utah Mammoth stuff? We'll talk with Chris Armstrong about that. Utah Mammoth president of hockey operations joins us next. We'll give away tickets as well. Stay with us.
And now, a look at traffic from the KSL Traffic Center.
The accident in Pleasant View on westbound 2700 North, just east of State Street, has been closed for over 2 hours. Also a crash on northbound I-15 in Midvale before 7200 South. That's been cleared out on the right shoulder. And also traffic is still unusually slow for this time of day in both of those areas. Just be aware of that if you're out and about this morning. This update is brought to you by UTA. Is Road Therapy. Give your car a break and get more U-Time. Plan your trip today at rideuta.com or on the Transit app. With your KSL traffic update, I'm Jake Hatcher, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
It's game week for the Cougars, and the KSL Sports Zone is getting you ready for kickoff. The undefeated Cougars return home to Provo for a Friday night showdown against the Mountaineers of West Virginia. Listen all week long for the best coverage of Cougar football. Then catch the post-game show immediately following the game on KSLSports.com, as well as a complete wrap-up the following day on College Football Saturday beginning at 10 a.m. Your home for the best coverage of BYU football is live on air, online, and on the KSL Sports app. This is 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
DJ and PK brought to you in part by Trajan Wealth. Call Trajan Wealth today, your local trusted financial fiduciary, 801-899-7600, or visit their website at trajanwealth.com. Time now to welcome in Chris Armstrong, Utah Mammoth, president of hockey operations. Chris, good morning.
DJ, PK, good morning. Great to be with you.
Thanks for coming on with us this morning. A home game.
My pleasure.
A home game. You're done going to Colorado and L.A. and Idaho. That means the hammers and the saws have been put away, the cranes out of the middle of the arena. There's ice again.
The nails are laid, the screws are in. We're ready to roll here at Delta Center. It looks amazing.
Is this going to be sort of like, not completely, but like a trial run with everything being new, and you have some new offerings there for food and some other stuff as far as, hey, let's get this done tonight and then see if we need to make any adjustments?
Absolutely. I think you try to take your home preseason games as a bit of a dress rehearsal, especially for us with the new identity as Utah Mammoth. We'll start to integrate some of those fan experience elements and start to build that identity here inside the arena. Obviously, we'll hold all the bells and whistles for opening night on the 15th against Calgary, but this is a great opportunity to test some of those things out and get fans back in the building and excited about the season.
That building has been around for so long now, 30-plus years, I think 34, and fans have a lot of great memories, right? And not just sports. Not just the Jazz, the Olympics, tons of concerts and shows there. There's all kinds of stuff. I think there's a lot of curiosity of what exactly have they done to the building in the offseason. And I know there's more off-seasons and more changes to come, but what have they done? What's going to look different? What's going to be new? What are fans going to like?
Well, I think you're absolutely right, and many more exciting moments to come, including our exciting season as the Utah Mammoth and some amazing concerts coming up in the lineup as well. And obviously the Jazz have a young and exciting, hungry team. So plenty of memories to be made, and of course the Olympics on the horizon as well. So we really focused this summer on the lower bowl. Our president of the Jazz, Jim Olsen, has overseen the project and done an unbelievable job alongside JV Galileo on our team. And we focused on creating that traditional lower bowl experience, if you will, or aesthetic, where we've got seats behind the nets. Last year, as you recall, we had backdrops. We've got full seats all the way up to the concourse now. I think it's the steepest pitch in professional sports, certainly in the NHL. Fans are right on top of the action. It's going to be loud and intimidating and everything we love about this building. So I think fans will be excited to see that and see how it looks. And it really is something for the eye to behold. I mean, the steepness and intimacy is incredible.
And now you got a name, and along with that name, it means that there's going to be merchandise available. I assume that will be on full display this evening.
Yes, sir. We're opening the doors shortly to put our home and away jerseys on sale for the first time as Utah Mammoth. And there's great excitement building outside. There's a line already extending around the corner, and this is a special day, an exciting day for our fans to finally get their hands on our jerseys and to fill our arena in our jerseys. And I know our players are excited to see them back in the building tonight.
Either tonight or ultimately maybe, in a few weeks here. How many different pieces of apparel can people get? Because the jerseys are obviously big. People go for T-shirts, golf shirts, caps. PK and I were just talking about how we have had either for ourselves or family members have gifted us socks from the bookstore at the universities we went to. I mean, there's really no limit to what you can put a logo on. What have you done?
I'm looking at the team store right now. Fanatics, our new partner on the team store, has done an unbelievable job of merchandising the store. A full complement of products. The hat wall is exceptional. One of the best I've seen. Hoodies, hats, T-shirts, you name it. I'm looking at onesies right now. So I think fans will be excited. It's an even deeper selection than obviously we had in our inaugural season, and the stuff looks great. Obviously, that blue really pops, and we get very proud when we see that color out in the community.
And you're telling me, Chris, I don't know if our listeners know this, that Christmas is coming up, and so some gift ideas that can be done with early Christmas shopping, right?
Absolutely. These are easy gifts to wrap and to put under the tree. So come one, come all.
Not just gifts, stocking stuffers too. You got to have the little stuff.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. It's America. Commerce makes the world go round, especially in the Christmas season.
We're excited. We're excited to see our fans in these jerseys. They look really, really good. So lots of good energy around the building already today.
I like what Andre Tourney, I like to hear his interviews because he's one of these guys who tends to tell it like it is as he sees it, right? He's not and it's only been a year that we've been around, but he's not a beat around the bush guy. And last year, I think it was labeled with excitement, with hope. And this year it's changed to excitement with confidence. Explain what that means.
Yeah, absolutely. I think what you want from your head coach is clear communication and clear expectations, and Bear does a great job of both. And, our ambition is to make that push to be a playoff team this year and for us to take that step, and that's what everybody's focused on. We've had a really good camp, a competitive camp. Guys have worked really, really hard, and the preseason is about getting your reps in and starting to sort of establish the identity for the season. Ultimately, staying healthy and getting ready to roll and get off to a good start in the regular season.
Kyle Whittingham is fond of saying, most people don't care about your problems, and the rest of them are glad you have them, right? So one problem that I see looming out there for you, and it's a good problem to have, you don't dare complain about it. So the summer of 25, you redo the lower bowl. The summer of 26, you got more plans to redo more stuff in the arena. But if a team goes to playoffs, that shortens an already tight construction window by 2 weeks. And once you're in a best of 7, we all know you get a hot goaltender, right? Suddenly, it could shorten it by a month. And you don't dare complain about any of this. I totally understand this, but how do you plan for that? Because that seems like it could be a major problem. You're already shoehorning a pretty extensive construction project into a tight window.
Well, as we like to say, those are high-class problems.
Right.
At the end of the day, we have an unbelievable team. We did just build a 143,000 square foot practice facility in just about 13 months. So I know Jim and Jamie and the team will respond to that challenge. It is a realistic challenge, but if that's the reason we're delayed, then we're happy to accommodate.
And that practice facility you speak there down at Southtown, is that 100% ready to go, or you still have more work?
Our hockey facilities are completed, and then we're still working to finish the public areas of the facility and hope to open that up later this year.
How is that going to work for people who've been going to the mall and all that? What level of interfacing, what is open to the public and interactive, what isn't? Does it depend on the time of day and if the team is training, and is there open ice? How does that all work?
Yeah, so we'll try to make the facility as accessible as possible throughout the day, even when we're in residence for practice, and unless there's something going on with the team that doesn't allow us to do that. We want this to be the home of hockey in Utah, and for the public to be able to interact with our team and our players and our staff at our headquarters. So it's not, obviously it's attached to the mall, but it has its own public entrance and separate from the mall, and that will be open regular business hours every day, and we can't wait to fill the ice times with youth hockey and adult hockey and free skating, learn to play programs when we're not on the ice.
The season starts in 1 week, and we know it's at Colorado, and I think you got 3 games on the road before you come home. You already mentioned it, Calgary on the 15th, so that's just, less than 2 weeks away. And I can recall last year, I don't know that you can recreate the level of anticipation last year because it was the very first game, but the stuff you had was super cool, and you had the thing that I liked, a resident Canadian hockey guy who also played on the PGA Tour, Mike Weir. You had him in a golf swing, and then I think, if I remember, he finishes it with a hockey swing. And so all that stuff was really cool. I imagine you've got stuff that's in the works that you're going to be able to do opening night this year?
Yes, indeed. I can't give it away here. My marketing team will get very upset. They put a lot of time, energy, and effort into planning some really fun things in the arena. As I say, the real focus is to bring this identity as the Utah Mammoth to light. Our fans helped us to pick that identity, and we want to give them the best experience possible here in the arena. So yes, I will say come early, be in your seats when the doors open. There's going to be lots of fun stuff happening inside and outside the arena.
I'm curious what the attitude is with inside the club and also with inside the league. The crowds were tremendous, but I was always surprised when I went to the game. It didn't matter who the opponent was. There were so many visiting fans there. It was unreal. And I grew up in Southern California. I'm used to, going to Padre and Dodger games. There's 5,000 people rooting for the other team, and it's 10,000 if it's the Mets or the Cubs. So I get some of that, but I got to say, and the stars are always going to draw, and the original six are going to draw. I get all that, but like Calgary showed up. I thought there were 3,000 or 4,000 people there rooting for the Flames. Is there anything you can do to make it more of a home ice advantage, or is that just life in the NHL?
Yeah, look, I think it's a few things. I think some of those fans live here in Utah and have been fans of hockey, and before we existed, cheered for other teams. So we got to win those fans over. Hockey fans travel really well. We see that across the league, and I think there was a fair bit of, and rightly so, a bit of curiosity to the novelty of the new team here and what we were doing and all the excitement and buzz around the building and the things that we're doing here in Utah that brought some of that hockey travel tourism, if you will. So I think those things will all level out. And, one thing I will say is our home fans are the loudest in the NHL, and they show up. They showed up every game last year, regardless of how things were going in the season. As the course of the season went on, I felt like we learned how to use that energy of the building to our advantage, and excited to pick up where we left off.
How much do you think, Chris, the team can be improved just by the basics of familiarity, meaning everything was new last year, and now, obviously, for the newcomers, it would still be new, but you're going to have turnover every single year. But for the bulk of the organization, there's a sense of familiarity. I'm just wondering if you think that can at least maybe, even if it's just a little, help the success.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. I think Bill Armstrong has said this well in a couple of occasions, that we have a little bit more. Everybody's a little more settled this season. We have a little bit more stability and continuity to what we're doing because we've had the benefit of a proper and full off season to get ready for the year. So he also always says, and I love this, that you can't manufacture experience. It's something that has to be accrued through games and through coming of age. And we've got a lot of young players who look great in training camp, and we think we'll take another big step this year. But that all of this requires patience and to stick to our plan. We want to build a team that's competitive and has a long competitive window to challenge for the Stanley Cup multiple times. And so this season will be really about trying to accrue that next layer of experience, if you will, that makes us a better team and on our way to being a championship team one day.
I don't know if the word is adjustment or pivot, but I thought the best thing that happened in season from the business side of it all, and I thought you won over a lot of people with this, initially the corners, the upper bowl, were closed for weeknight games. And there's a lot of complaining I heard about people who couldn't get into the building. And when you opened that up, I think you did a deal with Smith's, $10 tickets, and just acknowledged, hey, these are heavily obstructed views, but you're in the arena. I heard so much positive feedback about that. There were so many people who loved that. They knew what they were buying up front. They didn't care. They wanted to be in the building. They loved it. How are you handling that this year? What opportunities are out there for people?
Well, yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's something we'll look at again. That was a great concept by our president of commercial, Chris Barney, and his team, and really all about creating access to the building, right? Creating new hockey fans, giving people a textural experience with hockey and the energy of the building and learning the game, and just the opportunity to be here and feel that atmosphere in the arena. Obviously, we have fewer of those seats year over year as we make changes to the building to give everybody a perfect view of the ice. But as long as we have those seats, we're going to continue to make the focus about creating as much access for people to experience the game of hockey.
If that was Barney's idea, I'd take it all back. The guy's a bum.
He's a good man. Very talented.
PK, back me up on this. Barney's a bum. Am I right? I've always said that.
Chris Barney? Make sure he hears that.
Yeah, tell him I said so, too. Tell him I said so. That'll be awesome. All right. Hey, we actually know him because he started selling radio a long time ago. So we've watched him. We've watched him climb the ladder, and he's done a good job of that.
He's one of the best in the business. We're lucky to have him for sure.
Chris, we appreciate the time, and good luck with everything. and that could include maybe a shortened construction window next summer if all the hockey fans are lucky.
Absolutely. And we look forward to seeing you guys around the rink for
All
sure.
right. Thanks,
Appreciate
Chris.
you having me on.
Yeah. Chris Armstrong, Utah Mammoth, president of hockey operations. All right. Now Yak wants to put an exclamation point on this segment. If you'd like to go see the Utah Mammoth, they're playing the San Jose Sharks Saturday night at the Delta Center. Call right now. Caller 12-801-575-ZONE. Caller 12-801-575-ZONE will win a pair of tickets to watch the Utah Mammoth take on the Sharks Saturday night at the Delta Center. It's the perfect night to go because that is a super quiet college football night. You won't be missing much there. DJ and PK, call right now. We're back with your feedback next.
And it's all over almost here.
Don't go nowhere.
DJ and PK, it's time for your feedback. And the question, if your team cannot win the Big 12, who are you rooting for? Blake, Texas Tech, we need a flag bearer in the Big 12, and Texas Tech has the most national attention right now. He's going to root for the big dog with all the money and risk that they don't turn into the 800-pound gorilla.
I'm nervous about that.
Yeah, with good reason. Now, you're not big on rooting for the conferences you talked earlier. What about the thought that you got to get credit for the teams you beat, so you need them to have credibility?
Yes, but that's teams, 100%. I'm talking about one big dog that everybody chases. I think you misunderstood here. Yes, I've been pumping the conference as recently as yesterday when we had Robbie Bosco on, and I said the conference is not getting the respect it deserves because it's got a lot of very good teams. And to get the national attention, you need a team that is 0 or 1 loss. But I don't want it to be the same team every year because I think that actually waters down the conference. Well, yeah, that team, sure, that program is really good, but it's just beating a bunch of average teams. No, I don't want a dominant team. I want several teams to have a shot at it, and I want the depth of the conference, as I said, as a batting order. If your number 7, 8 hitters are really good, then you've got a great team. That's what I'm talking about.
I wonder if you can have 7 or 8, or if then they beat each other up and nobody gets any credit. I wonder if you really do need the ACC model, 2 or 3. And, Clemson obviously isn't good this year. But if Miami and Florida State are, and now they get to play in prime time, and they'll get hyped up all day long, and it'll be a big game. And there's only 2 top 25 games this week. It's not a great schedule. It's not only slow locally with the 2 byes and the Friday night game, and it's conference weekend, and we all get that. But it's not like we're going to sit down and watch it. It's a big week nationally, and there's 6 top 25 matchups. There's 2. Vandy and Alabama, and Miami, Florida State.
I love the fact that, there's still other games I could be interested in. I don't need some voter to assign a number to determine my interest. Boise, Notre Dame, whatever. There'll be games I'm interested in. But I love the fact a team literally on the East Coast is going out to Berkeley with like a 10:30 start East Coast time.
Yeah.
That just screams how screwed up this thing is.
It does. All right, we got an open mic here. Yak, what do you have?
So this just came in, and this is pumping up PK a little bit. Here we go.
PK, you are on my pedestal. You are the man. I love almost every word that comes out of your mouth. The words that I don't love that come out of your mouth are the ones that I cannot hear. What you do is you take a deep breath, and then you use that air to process the words. Now, don't mistake my snarky tone for arrogance or complaining. I just love you so much that I want to hear every freaking word. All right, bro? So like this. So now I can talk forever. I can say a lot of things. I can say them a lot of fast. I can say them at pretty good volume, too. As a matter of fact, I can talk so fast it'll make your head spin around 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, touchdown, whatever you want to say. But when you run out of breath and you talk like this, then I don't really have anything to add to the conversation.
Wow, that was a lot of time and effort in that.
But you got to talk to God on that. If I run out of breath, that's not my fault.
Your lungs are your responsibility, PK. Own up.
I talk to God often, so I don't understand what's the big deal.
When we come back, Jake and Ben are taking over right here on The Zone.